Ready if you are next door. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:33. We are the town's budget committee meeting for the second evening to deliberate the 2023 town budget. We'll go around the room and introduce ourselves. My name is Milt Simon, chair of the committee. I've been on the budget committee for 24 years. God bless you.
Jane Rice, Bowie Hill Road.
Heather Roy, Hollowell Road.
Blake, Stackpole Road.
Neil Berry, Stackpole Road.
John Talbot, Stackpole Road.
Rod Stimson, Emerson Road.
And for the record, I live on the Stackpole Road as well. All right, so on Tuesday night, this committee met and we voted on the administration budget and we voted on the fire department budget. Tonight, on tonight's menu is to make a recommendation regarding the Public Works Department and then all remaining items. Before we do so, Mr. Town Manager, Jerry, I see you have passed out some additional paperwork. Did you want to explain any of this?
I can do it now, or I can wait till we get up and
Okay, yep.
that's my turn.
We'll wait till we bring you back on. Okay. Then we do have the road commissioner with us this evening. So if you'd like to join the meeting, Calvin, we'd love to have you part of the discussion.
Did you give them these, the newest?
Yeah, yesterday.
I wasn't here for that. Can I have one, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
Give me back your old.
Oh,
Can't blame you.
thank you.
Does anybody else need one?
Good, thank
I'll take one so I don't have to dig. That's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, you got one yesterday.
Maybe that's this one right here.
27.
Oh, I guess I don't have one, Kelvin. Oh, yeah.
The only difference is gonna be the gasoline line,
Okay.
should be fuel line. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm not sure how to phrase this exactly. Is it appropriate to make a motion? I would like to make a motion that we accept the budget as presented, Public Works. And then obviously there'll be discussion to follow. Would you rather not do that or?
Typically we go, if the someone seconds the motion, then it's gonna happen. So if you're making that motion, typically we, do some give and take with the department head, so okay, questions can be answered, or, whatever, but I can't stop the motion if
Okay,
you
no,
get a
I'm-
second.
I'll wait. That's fine.
I mean, maybe it rushes things, it moves things along a little faster, but at any point you or anybody wishes to interrupt or cease to, or, enter a motion, you have every right to do so, and if it's seconded, then it moves things along. Just to let you know, the select board has already reviewed the Public Works budget and what has been proposed. They felt the request was reasonable, so they made no changes. Does anybody have any questions for Calvin?
Yeah. Pass these up again. I don't know.
I have
I have one.
I have one.
Anybody's
I
got
have
one?
one.
Is that, we've gotten that already? Yep, I still have that. Thank you.
Are we reviewing?
I got one on top, I'll take it. Good, thank you, Kelvin. I got it somewhere in here.
Yes, sir.
I just have a quick question, Coley, because I know it's been thrown out there. I think we briefly might have been thrown out there the other night, maybe not, but there's been some comment about whether or not the town crew is gonna take over the mowing of the cemeteries. And I was kind of wondering where we was on that. That if we are, I'm just curious where it is in this budget, or if it's in something different.
So I think that Jerry thought that we could absorb that in the current budget, but we already have the guys there. And it'd be a matter of just going around and
So, sorry. It has its own tab. It's not part of the Public Works. So animal control, assessing, and cemetery lives in its own category.
But there's been talk of it coming into the public works. So if it
Just
does,
a moment.
I'm just curious as to how many cemeteries and what the cost covered before, how many it covered, because it looks like we have 14, 15 cemeteries somewhere. And if the public works is gonna consume it, we're gonna have to buy some more stuff, because they don't have but one push mower. And maybe a couple of weed whackers, so they're gonna have to at least buy one or two more of each, because cemeteries are labor intensive, so I'm not opposed to it, I'm just saying, I wanna make sure that if that's what's gonna happen, we're just not gonna absorb something that really isn't funded properly for what we might have to do. I don't know how many we've been mowing in the past. I don't know if we've been mowing all 14 or
I-
4 or what.
I still have to go and identify. I've started looking for them before the snow. Haven't found them all, but my understanding is a lot of them are woods. They're mowed 4 times a year, or weed whacked, or mowed. And so I would have to finish locating the rest of them.
I mean, I don't care which way we go with it, I just wanna make sure that if, because it just seems like $4,500 is pretty cheap money for us taking something like that on that's got a lot more cemeteries than what everybody seems to think. You know, the Masonic Lodge was the one on Route 9, and it's an average of 4 guys, sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on the night of the day. And it takes them roughly 2.5 hours to do it, so that's 10 man hours for one cemetery once, and we do it 4 times a year, so that's 40 hours. So you figure out the math of whatever you're paying the guys and their benefits. I'm just not sure how this adds in. I just want to make sure that if we take it, there's enough there. It ain't a surprise.
And I don't have enough information to know that, but I would assume if a contractor bid 4,500, that he must have done the math, and if they can do it for 4,500, I would think we could. I can't imagine that the contractor would lose money, so.
Well, no, but were we mowing all of them, or were we just mowing?
Well, most of them typically are woods, don't need to be mowed.
So do we have enough money in here to buy another couple mowers? I just don't want to have it, we say, what, no, we're gonna have to buy some stuff, we don't have that. Because it sounds to me like you're gonna add at least a part-time guy.
I mean, a lot of those older cemeteries, the stones were put together in a way that they weren't meant to be mowed, and you basically just weed whack it 3 or 4 times. You can't get a mower between the stones.
Right.
So a more modern cemetery is, you'd be able to get through with a walker mower and riding mower. But so I can't answer that completely. I think we thought, well, we'll try it for 1 year and see how it goes. And if we don't think it's working out or beneficial or cost effective, then we could switch gears. But that's all the information I have, is that we would have to go out and try it at least, or wait till next year until we can locate them.
Well, maybe this is a question for Jerry, since you suggested that maybe the town crew take it over, do you have any information on this?
No, I don't. When I looked at the line at, what was it, 4,500?
Hmm.
In my mind, I'm like, that can't be a whole lot of work for $4,500. Can the public works absorb that 45? If it had been 15,000, I never even would have brought it up. But $4,500. And I asked, I'm new. I'm
Right.
5 months,
Right.
and so trying to be a little more efficient, looking at the budget. I asked, could they absorb it? I asked Calvin. He wasn't sure, and I'm like, well, let's try it. I mean, if they can absorb it, I mean, they mow out here and take care of grounds. I just thought it was worth a try to.
I know there's 2 on that list that private people do, so that ain't on the list, so that would probably narrow it down, but I just didn't know if we were doing all the rest of them for that or not. I mean, that's a pretty good deal if they are. I just don't think that we can do it for that, but it's up to everybody else. That's just my thoughts on it. I just want to make sure that we ain't,
I
and
think,
you might only be talking a difference of $5,000 or $6,000, but
I think that the cost is really, unless there's more than what I know or what we're thinking, I appreciate you bringing in that list. I was under the stand there was a handful of them that needed to be mowed. And, there's a pretty good crew at Public Works. So it was more of just the time to do it. If they've got an extra half hour, an hour to go bang out some a couple small cemeteries that just got a few stones in them. Maybe that's a good way to kill time to get up there and do it.
Well, if the town's willing to take it on, and, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, I just want to make sure that the money was there.
Anybody else? I have several questions. Some are small amounts, some are a little bit larger, just want clarifications. It helps me make an educated decision. I'll just go down where I had some questions around, one is item Department 4006, tree cutting. In our joint meeting, you explained that the reason why you're budgeting $4,000 is that you have a project in mind for next year that will use all of this money. I found something interesting when I was looking over the notes that you gave us this year. I happened to look at last year's notes, and they're identical in both cases. Under that item 4006 tree work increase, the verbiage is exactly the same. I am adding $1,500 for this year for a more aggressive vegetation management plan. So when it happens 2 years, when it happens 1 year, I take you at your word. When it happens 2 years in a row, I have to question it. You've now said the same thing 2 years in a row, and you've doubled the budget, and we have yet to see any money spent for tree cutting. So
Well, it was supposed to have gotten done, and I was assured it was going to get done, and then the contractor had some issues that came up and couldn't get to it, so in fact, I'm going to work on getting that lined up to get it started as soon as we can. So that would chew up all of that money. It should have gotten done last year. It was going to get done in December, and we thought for sure it was going to happen. We had the flaggers lined up, and we were set to go, and it didn't happen, so.
is it double the amount of tree cutting you're planning this year than last year? Because last year you proposed, you had a project in mind and added $1,500 to the budget. And now this year, the verbiage is the same. You're adding $1,500 to the budget. So is it $3,000 additional work than what was stated 2 years ago?
No,
No, the other work didn't get done.
no, the other work didn't get done. So last year was budgeted.
So why wouldn't the budget then remain the same? Because the budget had already been increased by $1,500 to come up with the $2,500 that was budgeted for
Well, let me-
2022.
Let me see. So let me get to the line here. Where is it? Tree cutting. What was the number again?
4006, 4006.
Oh, right here. Okay. So 2,500 was budgeted. So I'm looking to get $1,500 added to that for a total of $4,000.
So the amount, you worked it out that the amount of work that's gonna get done this year will cost $4,000.
And we would have had it done last year, but it just didn't get done. So
You shouldn't add, because that makes me ask the question again. Last year, the work that you were planning to get done was supposed to cost $2,500. It didn't get done, so you had the work that was supposed to have been done last year that's now being planned for this year.
Yeah.
Last year's cost was $2,500, and
Well,
this year you're saying it's gonna cost $4,000.
well, wouldn't have been, it would have been, we would have overspent that line. Because what happened is after the budget was done is we had an area that trees died and we can't ditch it without ripping out the stumps and the trees, and they've got to go. So we're going to need 4,000 to do the job.
Okay. Go down to the gasoline line, which is 4512. I don't know if you set the price or Jerry did the research, because the price has already changed. We initially got a budget that showed the request was going to be $40,000. And then on January 27th, we got a revised proposal for $56,000. I have some questions about the amounts. And the first one would be, how did that amount get derived?
So I made a mistake. When I was putting the budget together, I was looking at a spreadsheet. I was looking at the wrong spreadsheet. As I was working through last week, I said, something's not jiving here with the numbers, and realized that I was working off a spreadsheet I had put together late last summer, was a projection of what I was going to need to finish the year, and not what I used for total gallons. So that was the wrong spreadsheet. And so when I used the accurate number of gallons, I realized I was off by quite a substantial amount. So
Was there a particular dollar amount, for per gallon that you were basing this on?
yeah.
In your summary to us, you stated that you gave us both gas price and diesel price. You said fuel price, you're currently paying $2.67 for gasoline and $3.97 for diesel. So are you basing your prices off of that? Your projected pricing?
Yeah, that 397 is not a good number. It's more like 467 is what I looked at today.
Okay.
And 271 for gas, so that's 4 cents high, but
So I just did a little, just not great with figures, but I just was fooling around. And because I would, if I took the amount of $4 per gallon, which would be about what right now you're paying for diesel, but it would be high for gasoline.
Mhm.
If I took $36,800, which was the actual for 2022,
Mhm.
if I took the 36,800 and I divided it by $4 a gallon, it gave me that you use 9,200 gallons.
Mhm.
If you do it backwards, if let's say we guess that you use 9,200 gallons and paid $4 a gallon, which would be slightly higher than you actually did, that would come out to the 36,800 that is last year's actual.
Mhm.
If let's say prices rose an entire dollar, so you were going to be paying $5 a gallon, and we use that 9,200 gallon figure, the total will come out to 46,000 or $10,000 less than what's being asked for. Let's say the price rose $2 a gallon. I mean, we know the price is going to fluctuate. I really don't think we're going to see a $2 gallon increase, but we could. So if you take, so now we were up to $6 a gallon times 9,200 gallons, then it would be $55,200, and it'd be very close to the actual. I guess I'm not comfortable with it because as much as gas is fluctuating, I don't see it settling and staying at an increase of $2 per gallon. And again, this is all based on the high side of the diesel price. We know that the gasoline price will be somewhat lower than that.
well, and I can explain.
Okay.
The actual number of gallons is 12,000 gallons of diesel and 1,750 gallons of gasoline. Using today's price. What happened last year was I had a contract through GP Cog that was giving us the fuel very, very cheap until April. And then that lasted us once we stopped buying, once our contract ran out, and then we ran into almost June before we had to buy, before we had to refill a lot of the tanks. And that's when we started paying an astronomical amount of money. So we had very low prices for the first half of the year. And then that was offset by high prices the second half of the year. But the actual numbers are 12,000 of diesel at today's current price of $4.36 per gallon and 1,750 gallons of gasoline at $2.71 per gallon. Those are both the latest bills that just paid. Brings me to $57,116. Just going to go with 56. I think my numbers I had were low was when I came up with this number of 56 the first time, and that's not building in any cushion. So I almost guarantee you we're going to go over on this line. But
And you'll have another truck.
I have
Well,
a
no,
question.
no,
What
replace
do you have for the proposed budget?
proposed is 56,000.
56.
I have 40,000.
Oh, well, that's why I'm going to give you
It's
this
not
sheet.
revised. We're given a revised sheet.
What's this new one?
So I got it. I did get that.
Okay.
It's the one they handed out.
That's the only change you're going to see on that sheet.
So 56,000.
And that's when I realized last week that I made a mistake. And I know that it was after the selectmen looked at it, but something wasn't adding up. I'm like, we've already spent way more than, this isn't going to last me a year. So that's when I realized I used the wrong spreadsheet and I had to go back and get the right number of gallons. So
Jerry, do you go over this with Calvin, or does Calvin just do this on his own and present it to you and you forward it to us?
He takes care of his own budget, he comes in and gives it to me, and I put it in the spreadsheet. And then when there are changes, he comes and sees me and says, oops, we gotta fix this, and I put it in.
But
I don't micromanage or babysit my department heads at all.
I mean, you look at the historical, I mean, it's just fuel, obviously. Everyone knows the cost per gallon is just skyrocketed, so. I mean, those are fixed costs that I have no control over, so.
Understood. The thought in the back of my mind is just, you might have estimated
Nope,
for it.
I'm
It's
gonna
hard to,
Yeah, I understand,
it's a crap shot.
No, it's gonna be right on if we're not just a little over budget. We're gonna go try to keep it at 56 and use some less idling time and try to keep our dump sites closer to where we're working. I did that actually last year. I knocked on a lot of doors to find dump sites that were right where we were working, so I didn't have to transport. That was one way I actually cut fuel costs to even get through.
I think that that's something that you could, I did, right? We took tons of fill on my property. And I think that if people knew that that was available in town, I think there are more residents that would gladly, do that to help save, not only save you from having to do that, but also save them the cost of having to pay for fill. So if there's a way when that's available to people to get that out, like on the website or
Yeah,
on the
that's what we
Facebook
did. We
page.
put it out last year on the Facebook page and the news blast, and we got quite a few calls.
Yeah,
Between that and knocking on doors, being like, hey, you got a big hole, Lincoln.
yeah. No, it was great. It was great. I thought that was a win-win for everybody.
So did the select board approve the budget at 56,000 or
Yes.
40,000?
At the 40. So they're gonna have to come back and revisit this after you guys go over it.
Well, actually, they approved the bottom line.
But his
So-
bottom line when they went, it was the 40 instead of the 56. when
I
they
said
built
yes
it.
too fast, yeah. So they approved it at the lower number, so it'll have to go back to the board after.
Well, I believe they were looking at the same, with the revised sheet, because it was
No.
given to me at that meeting.
No, I gave,
127 revision was given to me at the meeting that the select board made
This
their
is,
vote.
this is 127.
No, listen. He came in after the meeting, it was after the select board. Plain and simple, end of story.
I'm just looking at it says revised 127.
did I write that?
And it was handed to me the night that I came to the meeting.
Okay, yeah, that's just not the right date, but
Okay.
anyway, it was after that.
Okay.
The selectmen approved 16,000 less than what's now on there, which is, I guess, your price increase.
Well, it was me using the wrong spreadsheet, is what it was.
I'm sorry.
It's an error on my part.
So I just want to check if there's another error under uniform and clothing. What was proposed was $2,000. At our joint meeting,
Yeah, that's.
you had told us that you were keeping that flat, and there's even a note on our notes that you were gonna change the spreadsheet. I'm still showing $2,000.
Apparently, I just noticed that again. So we take the 200 off that and make it 18 and take that off to 16,000 I need for the fuel. Yeah, that's on me. I should have made that change at the same time.
And I think my last question. It just is about the janitorial wages. It's not in your summary report. You may have talked to us about it at the joint meeting. I know that last year, when you presented us, proposed the budget to us last year, you requested $1,700, and the budget committee recommended that it be reduced to $1,500. Now you're at, and you spent $1,044. You're requesting $1,500 again. We've never spent that. We never needed to spend that much money for janitorial wages. Why the request for $1,500?
Well, there was a lot of time off for personal medical reasons, personal reasons that the person wasn't there. And I'm assuming we have a new a cleaning person, well, I'm gonna assume that even if it was the same cleaning person, that they would have less this year, and I can't assume that they're still gonna have the same issues again, so we have a new person that's taken over, and just gonna say if they were there every week, that's what it would cost, so.
Okay, that makes sense. Anybody else? I'm done.
I had a couple of questions. To go back to the tree cutting line, I'm wondering if Public Works, so I know when we had talked about Eureka before, there were trees that needed to be cut down in order for the sight line to be able to run a signal or, this, that, the other thing. Is that type of tree cutting included in this tree cutting line? That would just fall somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay. Does Public Works do it or is that contracted?
We would do it if we needed to, yeah.
Okay. And then I had asked about the insurance line, the 2520 at a previous meeting. And I think, Jerry, you had said that that was our casualty insurance. And so we budgeted, 91, and then the actual was 78. And then this year we're budgeting 95. What is that based on the number of employees? Why are those numbers so different? Why is there such a discrepancy there?
You called and got an estimate from
From MMA.
MMA, the insurance company.
And I don't know, I don't even trust the numbers that were in this stuff before I even got here. So we just call MMA and get the number, that's what we put in there.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have on this budget.
Anybody else?
So,
Go ahead.
never mind, it's not this budget, it's capital.
I'm-
No, the
Beg your
next-
pardon.
I'm ready to make a motion.
I have one quick question. I didn't analyze this too closely. You were over budgeted by 90 grand.
That number is actually not accurate now,
Oh, because of the,
because that's supposed to auto-populate or it's supposed to be formulated, and it doesn't work, didn't work, so you'd have to.
Neil, if you click on that unexpended number,
That number, click on it.
can you click, what do you get up here for?
I can do them. I can do the math on this. I know how to do that.
So hopefully, but that whole row has to,
Should be 76 now.
76 and change.
I have 90,000.
so in the proposed column down below where it totals, click in that and see if, what comes up in the formula.
K5 to K, it's I,
No, on my phone, what do you
you're
mean?
saying the total's not right?
Well, no, it may have not populated when it, so the total of Calvin's proposal at the bottom in the yellow, where it totals up that whole column, and I think it's the blue, at the very bottom.
I5.
Yellow, maybe? I don't have blue on mine, but
He doesn't.
I5 to I36. Oh, it's correct.
One, two,
J4.
Yeah, J4,
five.
but that's just
J4,
words.
there's nothing in it, yeah. Looks right to me. Anyway,
all I know is we added 16 to it, and that number didn't change. I noticed that, and I took it to Jerry today, and said, hey, that number didn't change, so.
well, this is versus last year. This is last year's budget versus expended.
I thought you were looking at the unexpended line at the
Oh,
bottom.
yeah, that's what I thought it was too.
I am.
Yeah, I know. So it's not. I did it on the. It's 90. If that number's right.
That number's right.
Well, was it the same number we had in there before? He took it out of the
Well,
16?
that didn't change.
Because that's your next.
Right. Okay.
This is
Oh, this
what
is-
was
oh,
budgeted in
that's what wasn't
22
spent
and what was
last year,
spent
okay.
in 22, and you did not spend
Okay.
90,000.
Right.
So some of that was the roads.
I guess I admit, yeah, some of that was right, yeah.
My observation is Public Works in the decades past has always been over budgeted. And it went to capital. And I think everyone's kind of worked to try and squeeze you a little bit on your budgeting. But now it seems to be back up to a fairly high surplus, if you will.
Well,
And
that would not have happened had That was due to the current labor market and issues that were beyond our control. Again, that should have been done, but there were projects that the contractor couldn't get to.
Yeah.
Had they gotten to, that would have been more like 40,000.
Okay, I'm just making an observation that, you know,
And no, that's, it's never going to be zero because I wouldn't be doing a very good job if I came out at zero. That would either mean I'm not doing a good job up front, or I'm trying to overspend at the end. One of the
I'm ready to make a motion, and my motion is that we approve, or whatever the correct term is, the Public Works budget at $1,338,920, $1,338,920.
You haven't taken the 200.
I don't think that's, to be honest with you, I don't think $200 is not worth making changes.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, it's been moved by John and seconded by Rod that the town raises and appropriates $1,338,920 for the Public Works operations budget. Discussion? I would vote against that, and it's simply based on history. And again, I think Calvin does a great job. But I just go by history. I just go by the numbers. Just trying to do my job representing the town. I'm just trying to raise the same questions that are going to be raised on the floor if people do their homework. If we go back just 3 years, the 220 budget versus the 2020 actual, we were underspent by $29,502. You all have these figures under the custom budget report. In 2021, the difference between what was budgeted and what was actual was $48,362. This past year, what was budgeted and what was actual was a difference. On paper, it says $90,057. I would like to be influenced by Calvin's and that maybe it was closer to 40. And so I'll use that. So over the past 3 years, we've underspent $29,502, then $48,362, and then $40,000 and change. With that in mind, I would vote against the budget and would do a follow-up motion reducing the present budget, somewhat of a reduction just based on history.
I guess my response to that is, you're talking about 1% a year, if my math is correct, that he's missing the budget by, which I don't, and I like the fact it's under. I don't know that we can get down to
zero. You're never going to get to zero.
So, I mean, a 1% miss is on a 1.2 last year, 1.3 this year.
I could not stand up in front of the town residents and say, it's just a $90,000 and feel that I would get reelected to my position again.
it's not 1%, it's closer to 10%.
Well, this year, yeah, you're correct. This year,
And there again, that was unique, but I'm saying had the paving crew been able to pull through and do what they were supposed to do, we would have been at the 40 again, which the average would be about 37,000. So
So I'm recognizing that I'm not holding you against the 90,000. I'm just if 40,000 is more realistic, but it also fits the trend.
right, but I'm never going to spend every penny.
I don't expect
I
you
wouldn't
to.
dare to. I wouldn't dare. As I get closer, I start throttling and I'm reading the amounts, and I'm never going to go over budget. So if that means I'm going to start cutting back. So there's always going to be money left on the table, which the taxpayers always get back. It goes right back to the taxpayers.
No argument on that. I'm just, if there was a chance of reducing it somewhat, as far as, remember what we do, if we present a different figure to the town, that if it's different from the select board, then we're simply giving the town an option. They get to choose, which they can choose anyways. I mean, someone from the floor could, could make, motion at their own amount.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if he's managing to within 4% of his budget, that's actually pretty damn good. So I hear what you're saying, Bill, but I mean, I think that's still pretty good management of the budget.
And I guess I'd have to disagree with it. I think that
You disagree with me?
I think that, well, not you, sorry. I think,
It's okay, we can disagree, we're all adults.
I think that the taxpayers elect you to do that for them, so they don't have to do that themselves at the town floor, or they wouldn't need a budget committee, so that's just, I think, one way of looking at it, so.
I know that people have an opinion of me, but I do look at my role of I'm not here with an agenda.
If you cut
I
this,
don't represent my personal views. I try to represent the views of some
Yeah.
people who live in our town.
I can tell you that I have cut this. Jerry drove a hard bargain. He wanted it flat, and I did as best as I could.
I thought Jerry didn't have any part of this.
Well, he had a part of saying, "Bring me flat numbers," and so I tried. I tried, and this is the best I could do, with no meat left on the bone.
Any other discuss? I don't know who was first.
So this conversation is interesting to me. My point of reference when we do this is only last year and this year. And last year we did the opposite of this for Calvin. The select board gave him a number and didn't help try to figure out how to arrive at that number. And I remember that we complimented Calvin and actually voted to approve the higher number because we felt like he was always the one who was just getting the carpet pulled out from underneath him, so to speak, because he has the biggest budget. That's where they could cut the most amount of dollars off to be able to stay under the levy limit, which is always what the goal has been since that whole fiasco happened. And so I find it interesting that, now we're talking about going the opposite way.
and the town voted for the lower budget.
Yes.
They always will, yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with what you're saying, and I think that that's why we're here. I also really, really appreciate the fact that there is that money. You didn't just spend the money because you had it, and that you are putting the governor on, closer to running out than overspending. I do appreciate that. That doesn't mean that I necessarily want to, pad or inflate or anything like that. But, I definitely appreciate that there is money there that didn't get spent.
And just to throw out the labor, for example, if we had a bad winter, I mean, that could be chewed up I could be over $50,000 on that line like that. If with significant plowing, and we've had winters in the past that has done that, where we've worked 105 hours a week. And
So I look at that increase of 88 grand.
That's the difference.
It's a lot of it is sort of,
That's
wages. It's got fixed equipment.
well, it's most,
And 25 grand in paving and the gasoline. Some of it's kind of out of his control, is kind of how I'm looking at most of that 88 grand increase.
so the fixed costs, I have no, like the salt is $20,000. They just said, this is what it's going to cost you more. And the fuel, that's out of my control. And those are significant increases. I mean, the fuel alone is 55% higher than it was, and the salt is 21.85% higher. So most of that is just, beyond my control. They're fixed costs that I just have to respond to.
Mark?
I said something about this at the town meeting last year, because I remember there was some debate about it because of the fuel and stuff. And I said last year, everybody thinks the fuel's gonna stabilize, and it's already started going up. Well, just because it went down for a month or so before Christmas, doesn't mean it's gonna stay down. And guess what? It's gone back up. In my little world of diesel and K1 that I've been buying recently, I'm paying $2 more a gallon than I was a month and a half ago. And I didn't like it, but I had to have it. I always like to keep the tax base down, especially because we got a lot of older people in town, but I think fuel prices are gonna go outside again. And unfortunately, anything that has to do with fuel, hot top, labor, trucking, anything to do with fuel, it's gonna go up, so. I'd like to cut, but I feel more comfortable not, just like that thing we talked about earlier. We don't even know if that's gonna be in here yet or not, so.
Right, because the numbers I put on that fuel are today's prices. If they go up again,
And they've already gone up. I seen them go up 20 cents the last week and a half.
Are these labor numbers, we're fully staffed currently at Public Works? Okay.
Jill will let you go ahead. We're in the discussion part of a motion, but you're welcome now to ask any questions.
I'm still absorbing. I
Yeah.
apologize for being late,
There
but
was a motion on the floor to accept the budget as proposed. I voiced my opinion based on history, thinking that it could be cut a bit. I haven't stated how much the cut is.
And I voiced my opinion that to come within 3%, 4% of a budget on any given year is pretty darn good. So,
This is 7.
yeah, but I'm usually, and I gave you the reason for that this year. Usually I'm about 1%, so.
So normally this is, there's like 30 to 40 left on the table at the end of the year. And this is because the paving didn't get done.
Right.
That was supposed to get done.
right, because they had maintenance issues, right?
Yeah, the machine's broken. They couldn't get the laborers. They couldn't get the
Nobody wants to work.
that's what they told
Don't
me.
understand it.
That's what they said.
I'm working.
If I was 20 years younger, I'd be able to pick the
Did
job
you
I
have,
like.
did you have anything on, you had, pre-thought of that you wanted to ask that would help you make a
Not-
decision?
Not with Calvin's budget, no.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, there's, move the vote, it's been motioned and seconded that the town raise and appropriate $1,338,920 towards the Public Works Administration operation budget. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's a vote, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1.
8 of us here.
Beg your pardon?
Oh, I didn't, that caught you?
Yeah, 7 to 1.
7 to 1. Sorry. All right, thank you, Calvin, for joining us. We'll move back
Did
to,
we do his
Mr. Du-
capital?
yes. Oh, we gotta do capital. Thank you. Thank you.
That's okay.
Reminding me.
We won't talk about that.
Different paperwork. All right. In no particular order. The select board has recommended that the town appropriates and transfers $50,000 from the Public Works Capital Reserves Fund for stream crossing / culvert replacements. We have to give our recommendation.
I believe that was the CIP committee's recommendation as well.
I believe it was. I believe that might have been ranked number 1.
Yes.
Because of the fund sharing, what do
Yeah.
you call it? Mr. Chairman, this is because the price went up. You didn't do it last year because Corps of Engineers and others told you had to spend more money.
And changed the whole permitting process and design process. Design requirements.
Yes.
How accurate are we going forward this time around?
Well, these are engineers' estimated numbers based on the new design. And I mean, the reason it was so far off last time was because Army Corps changed the permitting process, which the design criteria, which significantly changed the price. It turned them into just about bridges. One of them, it did turn into a bridge. So that's what happened. This time we've designed it according to the new criteria, and it's been permitted, approved by the Army Corps of Engineers. So now we have a more accurate number.
So the first time it was designed based on the criteria at the time,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
And then between the time it was designed in our town meeting they change their criteria.
Yeah.
How frequently do they change their criteria?
Don't see that happening. What they did was they reclassified the streams, both of them, as a critical habitat for Atlantic salmon. I would tell you, I haven't seen a salmon run around over on Quaker Meeting House or Swamp Road, but it's, to be in that criteria, it just has to be, sometimes it's not that they're there, but it's water that contributes to critical habitat. I've seen streams up on the side of a mountain that were critical salmon habitat, and you would look at that and say, but it goes into a stream that is critical salmon habitat. So,
So we went from a closed bottom culvert to an open bottom culvert.
no, originally they were open.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, but they want it much bigger and much wider and much, they want all kinds of 20% extra volume we had to survey the stream bed downstream 1,000 feet, upstream 1,000 feet, and bring it up and balance those two together because they were too deep before. So that's everything. That took a lot of time and energy and effort. So that's been done.
Somebody was gonna ask a question. I was just gonna say, engineer estimates tend to be on the high side, not a lot, but
Right now, they're all just going, we would have never dreamed. If you would have told us 3 years ago, we would have said, no way. But they're as shocked as we are, I think,
Okay.
at what's happening in the labor market. And so,
Another question, just, so the budget is 300,000 to get the project done.
Yep.
So we're transferring the 101,000 or using the 101,000 that was raised last year. And then we're getting 150,000
grant.
in the grants, and then the 49,000, but they're making it 50,000.
Right, so we have the 101 plus the 50, and then the 150
We
from
did
the
that.
DEP would be 300.
I'm missing that.
301 or
We did
two.
this
Right.
somehow.
Okay, okay.
Look over your shoulder.
And we hope it comes in at 250. But, you know, I mean, you never, that's a budget number.
Right, and if the funding, if the invoice comes in at 250, the unspent money goes back into public works
It never
capital
comes out,
reserves?
never comes out of capital. So it would just be,
It would be in the capital reserves though,
would be in the
correct?
balance. Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right,
So that $150,000 grant, that's a fixed, it's not a relational,
Non-matching.
it's not a match.
Right.
Maybe we should make a motion.
I was gonna say, I make a motion, that we transfer $50,000 from Public Works capital funds for the stream crossing stormwater project.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Jill and seconded by Neil that that the town appropriates and transfers $50,000 from the Public Works Capital Reserves Fund for stream crossing and culvert replacements. All those in favor?
Can we discuss?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So one of the
Stuff tonight.
things that I had a question about was when I'm looking at the balance in the Public Works Capital Fund and I'm looking at the projects that we have on this list. Now I'm second guessing capital reserve. So there's 50,000 that's going to get transferred out of capital reserve. And then there's another Public Works capital expenditure for 105, but that is slated to come out of ARPA. And then there's,
No.
the 1-ton truck is not ARPA?
Current capital funds and property. Oh, here.
No, yeah, the 110 truck is our.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess it was one of them. Oh, okay. Originally, I had the stream crossing in offer and was told that that can't happen because it can't have a grant attached to it. So,
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, so, and then there's 100, we're proposing to raise $100,000 to put into capital reserve.
Mhm.
And when I filtered all of that out, I show the capital reserve balance at zero if we don't put that $100,000 in. And so that makes me nervous. I feel like we need some clarity around that, because if we don't approve the $100,000 to go into the capital reserve account, we're at zero.
What's that got to do with this?
Well,
Because
we're going to transfer $50,000 out of it.
What would you propose to do?
I want to know if that's accurate, if what I'm stating is true.
That's been a very fluid situation. I mean, until Jerry just met with the auditor, we haven't really known what the balances are and.
They're pretty close though with the sheet that you got.
Okay.
If we're gonna go with the auditor's number,
Where is that?
should be pretty close.
I don't know. That's the one that I was saying. Was that a sheet that got handed out at the last meeting? Okay, because when I had asked if we knew the balances in the account, and someone said we have it, but I didn't have it, and so I didn't know if I missed it or
Well,
if it was because I
Handed
wasn't
out.
This is what we got at the last meeting, not.
Public Works is 218,
218. Okay.
if this is right. Yeah.
it should be.
I definitely, I want to do this. I do want to do this. I just want to make sure that we're all really accurate, about,
So if it's at 218 and we're subtracting 50,
yeah.
we'd
And then-
still be at 168.
So what was it that maybe it was before they were going to use the ARPA money for the truck.
Okay.
If all of that was coming out,
Right.
that was going to get us, okay. So if we're going to use ARPA for the truck, then we'll be not
Still pretty
awesome,
well
but
padded.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Sorry.
discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll now move the vote. It's been motioned and seconded that the town appropriates and transfers $50,000 from the Public Works Capital Reserves Fund for stream crossing and culvert replacements. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Okay. Moving on to, there's 8 of us. The truck. So the select board has recommended that the town appropriates $105,000 from the American Rescue Plan, known as the ARPA funds, which were received by the town from the federal government for the following project, the purchase of a 1-ton plow truck for Public Works.
So my question is, because I'm a little confused. This is not your truck that you're driving.
Right.
This is
I need to look at that.
the 2008 truck
Mhm.
that we're replacing, but we're not trading it in. We're going to run the 2008 truck into the ground.
We're gonna run it to exhaust. We're gonna run it until it's done, which we'll just keep,
But is it a replacement of the 2008 truck? When the 2008 truck is done, are you going to ask for,
that was what the CIP committee wanted me to make clear, is that it's not going on a replacement schedule. It's gonna run
Okay.
it to exhaust.
so this is the replacement truck? We just
Yep.
keep it a little bit longer. Okay. All right.
We got that on video, you know.
I know. Not adding it.
Anybody? Welcome a motion.
Are we keeping the 2008 versus, it's not it's in a situation where we don't want to try to trade it in or sell it outright or anything
Right.
like that, because
Right.
it's already beyond that.
It has really no value, maybe,
Okay.
maybe a few $1,000, but it has more value for us to keep it.
Okay.
If it's got a welded frame, you're not going to trade it in for much.
If they put it on a lift. It's
Where does the price come from? The 105.
the dealership quote.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to ask about leasing. Is that what?
I always ask about leasing.
Are there modifications that are gonna be made to it? Like, we talked about leasing potentially the fire department, but he's gotta put lights and all that jazz on there.
Whenever you buy just a chassis, then you have to have it outfitted for the special bodies and sanders and the plow gear. And so I don't know if that can be leased. I don't know if they can add that in there or.
Well, I know you can lease like plow trucks.
So that's
So-
all. So the cost of the truck usually is about half the cost of the whole package. So I don't know if the leasing company's gonna wanna go and pay the company to outfit it.
Well, I guess that's my concern. I mean,
But in this case.
they
it's-
offered
it's-
me $85,000 for my mall terrain to trade it in. So I guess I'm a little surprised that you're able to get a plow truck, even though it's a small plow truck, that you're able to get a plow truck for 105,000. So what am I missing?
It's just a plow truck. It's not a luxury vehicle by any means. It's just a utility work truck. Just a
So
cab.
it comes with all the equipment you need.
Yep.
We're not getting a request to,
You're dying to talk.
You're talking about the 105?
yeah.
That's not really a plow truck, I think, of what you're thinking of, right? The plow truck that plows the roads?
Not a.
No, I know it's like a
Oh,
miniature.
Just
okay.
a small, it's a
Just
small
a
dump
one
truck.
It's like a small, right,
This-
1-ton
this-
dump
this
truck.
Actually, it's a ton and a half. It's 5,500. So
So it comes with the dump body and
Yeah.
everything already on it
And
for
plow.
105,000 with a plow?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we vote to appropriate $105,000 from the ARPA funds received by the town from the generous people in Washington for the
You're
following
welcome.
project, one-ton plow truck for Public Works.
Is there a
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded that the town appropriates $105,000 from the ARPA funds received by our town from the federal government for the purchase of a one-ton plow truck for Public Works. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll move the vote. It has been moved and seconded that the town appropriates $105,000 from the ARPA funds received by our town from the federal government for the purchase of a one-ton plow truck for Public Works. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. 8-0. I think we have one more while you're here.
That's just to replenish the
Yep.
reserve.
If you
What do you mean,
want
just?
to witness it.
We're not buying anything with it. It's just.
Not
Just
this
a-
year.
You're gonna
Just
witness the vote.
maintaining the balance in the funds. So
So the select board has recommended that the town raise and appropriate $100,000 for Public Works Reserve, and they are requesting our recommendation.
So we had 218, we took out 50, and now we're gonna add 100? Is that it? Or did I miss other monies coming out of that?
That's it so far.
So we'll have 268 when we're done.
So I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I think John has some perspective on this too, but I think 100,000 is too much unless we take some money from the undesignated fund to do it. So that's my take.
So my understanding is we're not saying any money's going any which way.
Well, we can increase the undesignated, I assume we're going to vote, I guess that's a question, Joe. I assume we're going to vote on how much money gets moved from the undesignated fund. That'll be a warrant article.
Mhm.
So we can make a recommendation on that.
We will be.
And so that would be my recommendation if they want the whole 100,000. I guess that whole undesignated fund reserve level needs to be discussed a little bit maybe, but I think town ought to have a policy on that. We don't at the moment.
Would you like to reverse the order and talk about, is it your recommendation that we talk about the funding for the undesignated fund before we address Public Works Reserve?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to have an understanding that we're all on the same page about what that money is and how much it should be and how much it is right now. It's a little unclear, I guess.
Yeah, we should probably wait on that till I get up there because
Okay.
to pay for Calvin's uptick in his gas. And I talked about solid waste, which is probably gonna make your brain bleed a little bit.
Well, that's, I saw the
Yeah.
paperwork, which is one reason why I think I don't want 100 grand for public works
Right.
capital, because solid waste is up 50 grand.
Yeah, so the recommendation is going to be, well, that I'll make to you is use undesignated funds to take care of those two items. So instead of 200, undesignated fund will be 261, I could talk about.
So I
We
mean,
can wait before we make this vote.
Yeah.
I was just, didn't know if Calvin
I
wanted
was
to
gonna
witness
say,
it.
oh, yeah, I was gonna say, Calvin did, whatever amount it's not for a specific thing. So I mean,
Right.
if Calvin doesn't want to sit through us trying to hash out the undesignated, I think it's fine for him to not have to do that. That's just my opinion.
So unless you have a particular request, we're gonna hold on, off on that one. You're free to go make sure all the truck heaters work.
Get them all plugged in.
They're all plugged in,
Thank you,
right.
Calvin.
Thank you,
Thanks, Calvin.
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 All right, so tonight we had, on Tuesday, we had finished the administration budget, and we're going to finish all the other articles, but I'm noticing that Jerry passed out a revised administration,
Yeah.
and I don't know what we do, since we've already taken a vote on it,
You'll have to amend. Have to amend, I think.
we don't have to.
No, you don't have to, no, but before we get in to it, I'd like to clarify some stuff that we talked about on Tuesday, just to maybe.
You've got a new admin budget.
Yeah, it says, 227 on it, 2222.
Did something with it.
Yeah, on the bottom, it says 127.
Yeah, that was hidden, that was
It was on
Kevin
the
that
table,
did that.
22.
I don't-
Yeah,
I mean, I spend a lot of time.
Up at the top.
No,
You don't have
I
it.
don't have that one.
I put them on, is there one over
Yeah,
there?
I got an extra one.
Thank you.
You have it, Jill?
Yes, I do.
So, I just wanna,
Says 22 at the top.
220, 223, you have it, Mark? I put a bunch
It
of them
was,
around.
yep, it was in this pile that came tonight,
Oh.
and it was with this.
And basically, the difference is that there was an oversight in the codes enforcement line, and I didn't give him his raise. That's really all it is.
You didn't give the code enforcement officer
No,
his raise?
that was an oversight. I didn't give him his, I didn't add his 5% of his line
Line 1018.
When was he hired?
in May. I believe.
When was it?
May, was it? March, May? Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, no, it was spring because
Yeah.
It was in this-
Bob
somewhere in
left
there.
and then there was a shortfall for 2 months, so maybe March or April.
Yeah, it was.
We
yeah.
probably went 3
Yeah.
months without a
It
code
was at the end
enforcement.
of March or first of April.
But anyway,
And he's doing a very good job, but
So his salary was budgeted last year at 46,592.
no.
No, it
see,
wasn't
That's the
him.
thing. It wasn't him, and that's what makes it, that's what throws
Were
everything
you
off.
able
So
to get the
yeah.
basics yet?
You have that there too, which is, shows, there should be another sheet. Yeah, is
Right
that it? That actually shows the increase in the personnel, which is 12.
So this is the
This
kind
is
of the
today.
fixed 2022 is the fixed
It's
rate
what they're-
going into 23.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's kind of what that looks like.
all right.
But before we get into that, I just kind of want to like clear some air on, because I think there was some confusion between what you've been hearing about, the article versus the lines and charging invoices to different lines because you can. I think that was what we were talking about last time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you can't charge any invoice to any line. Like, so if you have an electricity, but you can go over in your electricity line.
Correct.
You can go over in your training line. You just can't pay your electricity line to the training line
Correct.
or to that sort of thing. So when you're over in one line, you hope that you're under in another line, so it washes out and you don't go over your article number.
Okay, so that is your philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. That's why you have lines. I mean, if you could apply any invoice to any line you wanted, what's the point of having the lines, right? Think of it that way.
But
And
We weren't talking about accounting procedures.
my question to you was, if you do find that you have underspent a line, do you then feel you can overspend another line because the bottom lines wash out?
no, because you're getting the invoices and you're just charging them to the invoices. If you have a training line and there's no training, you don't hit the training line because you didn't send anyone to training. So all of the lines, you get paid towards whatever it is. You can't,
But that's not what
I
she's
don't,
asking.
I don't think we're on the same
Oh.
page. All right, let me perhaps phrasing it this way. You have $500,000 to spend on the town administrative budget. And somebody quits in October and you foreseeing for the last quarter, it looks like you're going to have $25,000 unspent
in what line?
in that 500,000.
Oh.
You're going to have 25,000 unspent
In the article line or in whatever line?
in your budget.
Because your labor was
In
less.
this dark blue bottom line.
Okay, yeah, all right. So now,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you then feel when you are, for lack of a better term, shopping for a new employee, that you have $25,000 buffer where you can offer them more than what the last employee was making?
Not necessarily. It depends on the employee. It depends on what their experience
Oh,
is.
you've got the creme de la creme employee with all the experience in the world,
Well, he answered
no
the question.
kids, no family, no distractions. They can be here 24/7, 365 days a year,
I can,
and they clean the toilet too.
so I can offer them what we can afford to pay them. And if they don't like what we're affording, they can turn down the job.
But if the last employee was making 30,000 and your bottom line budget appears it's going to be underspent by 25,000, do you feel you can offer them up to 55,000?
Well, no, because I want to know what I have in that labor line to be able to pay them. I can't pay the labor line with something if I don't have it left.
Well, you can overspend the labor line.
Well, you inherited that because they overspent the labor line to pay you.
Yeah.
Well, that was my negotiating skills, though.
Well, it might be. That might
But
be,
that's
they
what
still did it.
we're trying to determine, right?
Right.
Is that like if you like Calvin knew he wasn't getting the paving done, he knew he was gonna have that money left over in the budget. He could have gone and spent it on something else or giving everybody in the department a raise or whatever, because as long as he's not over the bottom number, right? So he knew he wasn't spending that money on paving, but he didn't go spend it somewhere else. He left it there unspent to go back into undesignated. So what we're trying to figure out is where you stand on that practice, because we're in a situation now where, and I understand the labor market went crazy, right? And we all can see through this process that you have a lot more experience in this role than the person who sat here before you, right? We're not disputing the reasons why, but we want to know going forward where you stand and how you're going to operate in that, because part of the reason why the administrative budget is so much higher of a percentage is because of your salary, code enforcement salary, and another one. And so we're trying to look at it in terms of a year to year, like how Jane asked, I don't remember who you asked, the chief, that if what this thing that he was doing, was it going to incur a yearly fee with it. We're trying to figure out if we're going to incur an additional yearly fee for these things the way that we have based on what happened last year. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Sort of.
We have an addition, you are an additional expense that we weren't expecting this year
Okay,
because the select board decided to pay you more than was budgeted.
okay.
So it's just this is the budget committee or me, what we're not expecting that in the budget for this year.
Right.
But it's there now. It's
Right.
because they didn't overspend the administrative budget, but there's now another 10 or 15 or 20 grand there for you.
So that there was money in the budget.
Wasn't in the line.
Wasn't in the line, was it just at the total, grand total? You know what it is.
So that's right. So that's what they did to
Right.
be able to get me.
What?
It's not just you. It's the code
The,
enforcement.
the question I think some of us, I have is it legal to spend a lot more than what the line says you can spend? And it is, as near as I can tell, my research says you can spend whatever you want. You can pay anybody whatever you want. You might not have a job next year,
Yeah.
but you can pay anybody what you want to pay them. Just like the select board can pay anything they want to pay you.
Mark?
I think, and it has, and Heather's right. I mean, and I know we've talked about this in the years past. It really didn't matter what happened up here as long as it was okay down here.
Right.
But what I think I'm hearing you say is that's not really how it should be, and that's not what you want to do. So if your labor line goes over for whatever the reason, your labor line is going to go. It's got to come out of somewhere, but it's not going to come out of the telephone line because you can't take it out there. It's not going to come out of the shoveling line because you can't.
Yeah.
But it's got to come out of a line somewhere. And in your case, what we did the other night, we took away that line that probably is where you was taking it from, if you had to,
15.
The contingency line.
contingency.
No, I just thought that we were thinking that like if the electricity line was already at 100% in October and we still had 1,000 left, that you don't put it towards the electricity line, you put it towards another line.
I see what he's saying.
You can't do that.
No, we understand that.
So,
Right.
okay, so that's what I thought I thought that's
Yeah,
where
no.
where you
If
you
you,
shouldn't do that because that doesn't help you move forward with your actuals for the next year. So
Right.
that's what I thought you were.
No,
that
so
you
that's
were
good
referring
to
to.
that's good to have that clear. I think all of us are on the
Right.
same page with that. We all understand that
Right.
that's great. Good, because that's kind of not what has happened, right? Like
Right,
all
right.
of the chief stuff went into labor. So we all get that. Now we want to know if you
So when you go into the whole labor line and you only have so much in your labor line, but you've got enough in that, in your article line, and you need to hire somebody, if you can't get them with what's left in your labor line, you don't really have another choice to go to. You can offer them what you have left in that labor line, but if they don't take it or you can't find them, you've got to get it somewhere. So it's not necessarily black and white. You've got to have some wiggle room in your budget to be able to run the town. You know, I mean, and that's a decision that department heads have to make. And of course, it has to go through the board and everything as well. So whoever's sitting on the board, but there are circumstances that are not, like I said, black and white, but you know, especially when you're talking about hiring and getting people on. Because anytime somebody leaves and somebody comes on, it usually costs you more money. So it has to come from somewhere in that regard.
I gotta bring this back in. Why are we talking about this?
Because I thought there was
because we're
some,
now revoting on the administrative budget.
you know,
We haven't decided if we're gonna.
I just
vote on
thought
it.
there was some confusion with you all thinking that you can just, if you're at 100% in your line and you're still getting a bill, that you can just apply it to.
Another.
No,
Never
but the
mind.
select board and the two town managers that we had last year, because those were the three bodies in charge of the administrative budget, overspent the labor line by 13%.
Okay, did they overspend the article line though?
That's the whole point.
No.
Right.
No.
That doesn't matter.
But they overspent it because they needed to, they could have.
But it now is what's leading to a 23% increase in the administrative budget this year, which is a hard number to stomach.
Yeah, I think though, what, isn't it 12% though, that I showed you from like now
This
until?
one, 12.
12% just for labor, but a total of 23.61%
But
from
that,
last year to this year.
in that same personnel line,
Yes, 13% of it is not your responsibility.
can you show this?
12.92% of it is your request. But that still gives the residents,
But so are you looking at the increase and decrease of the percent just in
I
Department 04?
did I just took my calculator from the sheet you gave us and I divided $332,842.27 by what was budgeted in 2022, which was $294,757. And I got 1.3, which is
Right, but-
13% increase.
But the 22 budget today isn't the same because we hired,
Exactly, because three bodies before you hired folks, didn't pay attention to the labor line. They just made sure they didn't overspend the article line, which is steamrolling us this year into a fixed 13% increase in the administrative budget.
and I think part of that though is to be able to get them.
I understand.
You know, if you don't pay them what they're worth or what their experience,
I
you're just gonna stick
understand,
what's in
but
the labor line.
the town
Maybe
isn't
you
going to
won't get 'em.
continue to approve a 23% increase in the administrative budget, and you're going to have to come home and fire somebody.
Well, or me. The labor market is the labor market. If you don't want to pay them, then I don't know what to. I
So
really
this
don't know.
isn't-
The
This
question is not necessarily of not wanting to pay them, it's how you're paying them. Is from where is the money coming from to pay them?
Well, if you don't have the money, you're not going to hire
So I'm
them.
saying, we're not saying that, we're saying where is the money? The money is in the total.
Right. That's where you're getting the money.
We understand that, but it has to be, we have to be able to follow the,
Well, it's in the budget now.
But is that I mean, we're not talking policy. Is that the purpose versus the budget? I understand the frustration. I've heard it since watching it on TV last year. But I mean, we've kind of, maybe, is it time to kind of move on and talk about, there's a change in one line is my thought. And then having just said that, I'll violate what I said and say, what the town has accomplished is, we had a good code enforcement guy. He inspected my house and all that stuff. But the guy we've got, they went out and got a very qualified, very good person who raises the code enforcement thing a level of 10 above what we had and what was being done. So the question is, if we now bought that capability with code enforcement, question about the town manager, but the town manager, and we've added some clerks. And I think if we improved the town's ability to do its job. But I do think we've, and myself included, have wandered off the reason we're here tonight.
Rod, did you?
I think the question that I keep hearing isn't so much, Jerry can do. You can spend to the bottom line. As long as you come in on the bottom line, there's nothing that prevents you. But the question is, should you do that?
Right, what's the
And,
philosophy
and
behind it?
what is your philosophy, your ethical? Now, if my car runs out of gas and I don't have money for gas, I'm going to take it out of my groceries because I got to have gas. But if I've got some money left over from groceries and I want to go to the movies, I probably could shift that money, but I wouldn't do it because that's not what that money was earmarked for.
Right.
And I think that's the question that we're trying to get here is people are taking money and spending it kind of arbitrarily because it's available instead of really weighing the ethical
And I would
mandate that we've presented.
Ethics don't have anything to do with it. It's what's legal.
I would go one
Right,
step
well,
further
that's
to
legal to do what
say
you want.
not go
One
to
at a time.
not go to the movies, but like maybe up your cell phone plan because that's a reoccurring bill. Do you see what I'm saying? So instead of using it to spend money on something that's a one-time thing, you they took that money and they spent it on something that's a reoccurring fee now every single
Totally.
year. And so that's what we're trying to get shaken out, is where you stand on that. And none of this is you. This all happened before you got here. That's why we're asking.
Right,
People are going to ask
We
this
wanna
question.
understand
We're
going
trying to help
forward.
you.
right. So if I have a vacancy and I have a candidate, and that candidate's a good candidate, and I want to hire them, and I look at my labor line and I say, look, I can only pay you this much. Do you still want the job? No, that's not enough. Okay, I can't spend any more out of my labor line, so good, see you, bye, good candidate.
So-
I'll try to find somebody else, maybe a little less qualified, to pay out of that labor line. I don't think you want to do that. I mean, your philosophy may be different, but if you want to get good people and there's not enough in the labor line to hire them, you pass them up. And then now we might not have that good codes guy.
Well, the
or-
alternative is to go to the select board and ask them for some more money.
Right.
Which you can do.
But we can, but because of the town meeting and the legislature and the voters, you really got to go ask the voters for that extra money.
No, there's an emergency fund. You can ask the
Yeah.
select board and we can approve.
I haven't seen the emergency fund.
It's in there, 16 grand.
Is it? Oh, it's in the restricted. But
You're already spinning.
no, but I mean, all this sort of stuff. But do you kind of see where I'm kind of going with the labor? I mean, if you want to stick to the labor line and try to hire somebody and you don't have enough to get them in there.
Yeah, this is all irrelevant. You can
It
do whatever,
is.
you can do whatever you want,
Right.
Jerry, and you guys can be moan and groan all you want. He can do whatever he wants.
And I think he's answered the question,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
I
I mean,
think
I think,
so
you
too.
know,
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on.
Right. And
I'm
so.
fine with that.
I may not like the answer, but
Right. And so another thing that I want to bring up too is that when we have these meetings, the respectful thing that I try to do and the professional thing I try to do is give you the material ahead of time. So you have it. That wasn't afforded to me on Tuesday by the chair and his contingency ran. All of us, I didn't see it coming. All of a sudden, he's into his contingency thing, gives me a piece of paper, and I'm like, I mean, it was a beautiful blindside. It really was, but I wouldn't wear that like a badge of honor, because to me, it was unprofessional and disrespectful. Because
Mr. Chairman, I think now we're starting to cross a line a little bit. I think we need to there's a
Well,
question about, I hear what you're saying, but I think we really need, now we're getting into personal views and other comments. Let's get to
But it
the
was sort
purpose
of
we're here.
But it was pointed at me.
It was not pointed at you,
It
and I
was
agree with
because-
John, so I'd like to get this back on track. It was my argument to the budget committee. It was a budget committee. If I'm sharing information with the budget committee, I gave you the courtesy to see the same information. It had nothing to do with
You
you.
looked
It
at me
was
and
all
said, you,
done-
sir, have more contingency than you think you do.
So what we need to do is decide whether we're going to just stick with the vote that was passed on Tuesday, whether we want to revisit and, I can't think of the word, retract. I don't know if retract is it.
Can you just
Amend,
amend?
amend.
Well, it wouldn't be, I'm not sure we'd be amending it.
So what increase the CEO?
Yeah, his I didn't put his raise in there. Oh, and Jill, you asked about, the benefits of the clerk and why is it 1347?
I think I asked that. didn't
Yeah, somebody did, but it wasn't me. That's
Oh.
fine.
I? It was me.
Oh, it was you, sorry.
No, it's all right.
This is a kind of a weird thing because I ran the report and if you don't take insurance, you get that 1,200, but MMA charges like $9.90 or $15, and it got charged to that line, but the CEO is not taking insurance, but nothing got charged to his line. So I think we got some internal payroll type things going on there that is, and I tried to dig into it, but I don't know why that happens. we are kind of looking, we called MMA, they're supposed to call
CEO is
tomorrow.
3,000 because
It's very little bit of money, but it's just odd that it hits one line, but it doesn't hit the other. And I can't answer that. But I knew somebody had asked it.
3,000.
So-
Thank you for looking into it. I wondered if it was, if there was, if it was supposed to be just that flat rate, why it wasn't the flat rate, even though it is just a very little bit of money. And then also if there were some other benefit that we don't know about paid that got put there.
And it's a great question, because I asked the same thing, because when I see the CEO's benefit and he's got 1,200, but I look at the clerks and it's more, I'm like, why is this?
Yeah.
You know, I asked the same questions, and I'm trying to dig into it and find out why. how
So,
that
Mr.
works.
Chairman,
Yes.
the new total that the town manager's asking is 553,665, is that right?
625.
553, 624, I believe.
Yeah.
Look at,
So we would technically need to
But wait though,
amend.
but wait
our
though,
amount.
I didn't take out the 15%, so you gotta take that off.
15,000.
Yeah, sorry,
15,000.
the 15,000,
Right.
All right.
you gotta
That's-
take that out.
So I do think because the bottom number changes, we do need to amend our vote because if I remember correctly, what was the philosophy behind the budget committee's recommended amount was removal of the contingency line of 15,000. But now currently, because the new budget presented to us went up by a little over 3,000, or
27.
a little under 3,000.
27.
The line that the budget committee recommended is now greater than 15,000
Correct.
less.
Yeah.
So,
So if we're going to move forward, I would first need a motion to rescind the vote that we took on Tuesday.
Don't you first have to have a motion to go back to look at that?
yeah, to
You
amend.
get as a motion.
All right, to first revisit it.
I'll make a motion to revisit the contingency fund. And then everybody either has to agree or disagree.
For the whole budget.
Revisit the vote.
Why is
Revisit
it
the vote.
To revisit the vote.
Revisit the vote.
Right, revisit the vote, right.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right, so
Just
it's
so
been
we
moved
can
and moved by Mark, seconded by Jill to revisit the budget committee recommendation,
Amount.
recommended amount that we voted on
The
last
new
Tuesday.
budget.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All right, so that's a vote. Now,
Now you can discuss the amount.
Mr. Moderator, make
or
a motion.
take a motion, yep.
Also, let me first state, though, if the new number is 55,3624, less 15,000, I come up with 538,624.
I do
That's what I
too.
got to.
Okay, so I move that we appropriate $538,624 for administration.
Is there a second? Okay, so it's been moved by Neil and seconded by John that the town raises and appropriates $538,624 towards the administrative operation fund. Discussion?
So I'm just saying now, I'm going to abstain from this vote because Alan was here and now Alan is not here. And I am now here and I don't want to put us in a situation where we're at an even number. So I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Were you able to even vote on it the last time, or was that after you got cut out of the?
No, the vote happened after I got
Yeah, that's
cut
what I
and
thought.
you
Right.
put me down as abstaining.
Right,
So
so you'll stay abstained. That makes
All right.
sense.
Any other discussion? All right, yes, Mark.
There was some talk about, and I don't even remember now who brought it up, but somebody brought it up about taking that and cutting that 15,000 in half. So I guess if you're gonna make this vote here, you've either got to vote it up or down and then revisit whether you want it to take in.
I didn't hear that discussion. Who made that recommendation?
It was mentioned the other night, something about maybe splitting it from 15 to 75.
I don't remember
I
that.
never heard of
Now, I heard it from somebody, so.
Why are you bringing it up?
Huh?
Are you in favor of that?
Well, I
I
am.
think he's trying to get us to a number.
Are you,
I get you to another,
are
right?
you
Oh, he
asking
got
that
to a
is,
number.
No. We got to vote this one up or down. And if it gets voted down, then you can bring in another motion to add 75 if you wish to. That's what I'm saying. I don't know who said it, but it was mentioned the other night somewhere, something about, it wasn't discussed, but somebody said, well, I'd be in favor of cutting it in half. So I'm just throwing it out.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll move the vote. It's been, the motion that has been seconded that the town raises and appropriates $538,624 for this coming year's administrative operational budget. All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. The vote passes 4, 3, and 1.
What would have happened if it would have been even?
We'd have to chat it
We
out
would've
and break the
fought.
tie.
Yeah.
Fight it out.
Yeah, it would have, I think, failed and we had to try and find a number we could agree
It's
on.
even Steven a lot of time, I think what happens is basically, that's the end of it.
Right,
Those don't go anywhere.
right. You gotta talk again about your new number, yeah.
I just, one of the solutions that could have happened was instead of calling it legal fees, we could have called it professional service fees, and that way it would have covered legal and the accountant that I needed to hire that I didn't really have a line
Well,
for, so.
and technically, our conversation here, we as the budget committee, at least in the past, really all we're saying to you is your bottom line is cut by 15,000. We're trying to give you our thought process behind it.
Yep.
You can come back next year and say, I decided not to take a raise for myself since I was just hired in the fall. And I decided that I kept the contingency line and put that amount in the contingency line. We're not telling you you can't have a contingency line. That's not what this vote did.
Right.
What this vote did was dropped your bottom line budget by 15,000 if that's what gets approved at town meeting. Does that make sense? And I think you have the ability to change all the wordings of all these lines.
Yeah, I will. See, this budget really here should look very similar to the public works and fire budget, but it's so chopped up. And I think we need to have an administration line and just sort of clean it up a little bit so we don't have Department 4. And I mean, I've never heard of Department of Office Expenses, right? So there's office expenses in every department. So
Right.
it's just sort of cleaning that stuff
Yep.
up. Yep.
All right, so now we move on to, hopefully, pretty fast now. We go on to animal control. And at some point that was revised, there's on 127.23.
I don't think I have the revision.
There's 3 departments shown on the page, but the heading is animal control dash assessing dash cemeteries. So it's gonna be 3 different votes. Yeah,
I don't think I have that one though.
so in your bottom,
Yeah, my numbers are different. Thank you.
if you want to just double check in the bottom right corner, it should say revised 127.
But the ACO amount is still the same at the 18,600.
And let me just
And
double check.
127 is
No.
still the same.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the new amount.
I believe all of
Oh, the
the,
book had a different.
Yeah.
I believe all of
Don't look
the
at that one.
accounts that we're gonna be discussing have all been approved by the select board without any changes.
In our book, it's 18,600.
Pardon?
Yeah, things change, because what happened when I put that book together, I got a bill after I put the book together from the.
So,
Of course you
I make a motion that we allocate $18,600 for animal control services.
Second. Sorry, would you like to second?
It has to be second.
Any discussion?
So it's been moved by Jill and seconded by John that we raise $18,600 for animal control. All those in favor? It's a vote. Ms. Peters.
I will put a pip in the town manager's ear that the fees of other towns to bail your pet out of jail have gone up. So the town may want to look at the bail your pet out of jail fees.
Because you think they're low?
If you look at surrounding towns,
So
the prices have
I
changed.
gave I think both of those, I think, were quotes given to me. by-
No, this is the price we pay for the animal control officer.
Yeah.
But
Then
The-
we can
the
charge.
Greater Androscoggin Humane Society and the Coastal Humane Society, depending on who gets our dog,
Yeah.
charges a fee for the owner to bail the dog out of jail, bail the
Oh.
dog out of the shelter. And part of the total of that fee comes from what the town charges.
Okay.
So I think it was probably like 5 years ago, we never had a fee. And Durham started charging $50 to get the pet out of jail.
Okay.
But I think if you investigate, that price has gone up
Uh-huh.
in neighboring towns.
I think when I looked at historical of those two, they were pretty close in line all the way across the years.
No, again, this is,
Our cost.
right, it's kind of like the $50 that I'm talking about is kind of like a permit fee.
Okay.
You know, it helps to offset the charges that we're charged to have animal control in our town and to have a shelter that will take strays and things like that. And the town also has to have funds for emergency care of said pets because legally, if a hit by car goes to an emergency clinic, the veterinarian is required by law to stabilize that pet. And the bill goes to the town.
Okay.
To the
So
town.
money in the budget for that is basically what you're saying. Okay, thank you for that.
All right, so moving on to assessing, the select board has approved the town raising $21,000.
21. Where do you get that? Oh, right here. Okay, got it.
Under Department 19,
Yep.
middle of the page.
I'll make a motion that we approve $21,000 for assessing.
I'll second.
It's been moved by John and seconded by Heather that the town raises $21,000 for assessing. Any discussion?
The mapping thing, I'm trying to bring up what I had last year. So what is the mapping under assessing?
That's when the assessor updates the tax maps and her cost to do that.
Because she has to do a step before it goes to the GIS.
Yes, yeah, she has to put the data in there, then it goes there.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing, when I asked her about, her bills and whatnot, she said, just keep it flat. I'm good. Next year, she's gonna want a little bit more.
I mean, as much as we like scrutinize over this, we've been paying her the same amount of money for a very,
Several
very,
years.
very long time. So,
And I did ask, I said, are you okay? And she said, yeah, this year, but next year, expect a little bit of an increase.
Any idea why last year there weren't any costs for transfers and supplies and this year we need to budget for it?
It was just poor allocating.
Yeah, I
It was
don't,
all put under labor.
right?
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that the town raises $21,000 for assessing. All those in favor? All those, it's a vote. Moving on to cemeteries, Department 22. The select board has approved the town raising $450 towards cemeteries.
I'll make a motion to approve $450 for the flags at the cemetery or
I
for the
second it.
cemetery.
It's been moved by John, seconded by Neil, that the town raises $450 for the cemeteries account. Discussion?
And that's just because the Public Works picked up the building
Right.
versus having that being paid for by a outside contractor. Correct.
Yes.
Do flags get reused?
You know, they get pretty beat up.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it by the time they're done, and we cut grass at one of the cemeteries in Bowie Hill, and they're pretty beat to hell and back by the time
They're not real expensive ones anyways, because
450 is probably less than $1 a pop or something.
And I think they do get reused for a couple of years.
They
Because I know
might.
like this year, when you drove down the road, some of, right in the beginning of like them being hung up, some of them were definitely more sun faded than others, so.
I think these are the little
So
flags they
little
call by the
flags.
veterans graves.
That go. on the
Oh.
veterans.
This is a little tiny stick and thick, and it's got a little flag on it. It goes on veterans graves.
Yeah, I think those are one time use.
So I will make a comment of something I saw in town that it was new that I thought was pretty cool. I went to donate bottles at the AMVets, and now they have a box stuck to that thing that you can put old flags in.
Yes, I saw that
It's
too.
wonderful.
That's
the
all there
ambulance
is.
on?
Yeah, to be able to retire.
There was one at Aubuchon's.
There still is, but
Yeah.
Ambets used to do it like temporarily, like
Yeah, I think that's a
Flag
great
Day
idea.
kind of.
It's good.
Good, that is good.
Yeah,
Keep
that
getting
is good.
some
Any
delivered
further
to
discussion on the motion?
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
How you do?
Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that the town raise $450 towards the cemetery account. All those in favor? It's a vote. Moving on to conservation, parks and recreation. And again, you want to check the bottom right-hand corner that
I do not have the new one.
you have the revised 127 copy.
I handed it out last night.
Tuesday.
Tuesday night, yeah.
Tuesday night,
Yeah.
and I might have it in the front. I did not-
That hasn't changed since this email though, right? Since the electronic.
Correct.
It hasn't. It doesn't look the same.
You don't mind sharing.
Oh, no.
7880 on Cousins.
My only question on this is
On which one?
Parks and Recreation. Is that where we're at? Is that where we're at?
No, I haven't gone down there. We're gonna, I'm just doing it in order of departments, so it'll be
Oh.
Department 24, Runaround Park will be the first vote.
It's not the way that it is. They're all put together under Conservation, Parks and Recreation. It's gonna be
Yeah.
one
Oh.
article.
Oh, okay, one article.
Last year, I think it was like 6,000.
Yeah.
Yep, it's now 7,880. Okay, I'm sorry, Neil, go ahead.
The original request, at the beginning of January, had the Historic Preservation Commission request in there, which has been removed. Part of that was moved to the planning board. And I guess there's still some left in there. I'm a little, confused about what the Historic Preservation Commission is going to get out of this budget, if anything.
So they had,
See what the
they
differences are.
requested 3,200. They had money left over, $1,200, something like that. So I used that and then gave them 2,000 for their request.
If we, it's in
If
the
you
planning.
approve it, yeah. So I didn't realize because of the numbers until I got the audit numbers that they actually had some money.
Is there a fund for them?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So rather than going with their full request because they had like 1,200 left over, I just made it 2,000 to equal the 32.
But that's now in planning.
Yeah, I think that's that's where it always
Yeah.
was in my mind.
I went back and found where it was
Yep,
last year,
that's
and
fine.
that was the.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve or appropriate $7,880 for Conservation, Parks and Recreation.
A second.
Second.
Been moved by Neil and seconded by John that the town raise $7,880 for the conservation, parks and recreation accounts. Further discussion?
So the River Park maintenance says they need a new sign, but they have no money budgeted
No,
for it.
they actually, I took that out because there's actually another fund for them.
Okay,
So I'm just gonna use the money out of that fund. It
Okay.
might be, in, hold on. If you look at your committed,
There's a recreation fund of 20,000.
there you go.
It's on that list of
It's on that
reserve
list, yeah. I knew
fund
this.
balances.
So that recreation for 20,138 covers anything under this tab that we're looking at?
We could, I think. Yeah, if I remember some discussion, we could pay the whole thing out of the 20,000. Because that's snowmobile fees and
Yeah, snowmobile fields, and then the youth baseball was looking for some money. They're looking for like 2,500, and the snowmobile fees is like 1,100.
no, you're fine, I'm just.
Oh.
well, but the snowmobile fees go into the recreational fund and the club wants, correct, they want to have money to,
Right.
from the town, a grant from the town, I think is what I remember reading.
Okay, so then for clarification, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole, we're not saying where it's raised and distributed from and things like that. Is this Conservation Parks and Recreation, the $7,880 coming from Recreation Reserve Fund balances?
I'm not sure if that's restricted for some sort of thing, but I removed the 1,500 because they had that money in there.
I would like to remove the 7,800 because they have that money in there.
Great point, Joe.
Yeah. And again, that sheet that you're looking at, the one with the reserve fund,
Yeah.
and that really just got put together last week because they came in. So, yeah, I mean, if that's where you want to go, I'm good with it.
Okay, so if I was to make a motion, you'd like me to add in 1,500 for the sign?
Well, will the sign cover? I don't have that.
It's on there, park maintenance 15, is that not the same thing?
It's not on
New-
here
new sign.
anymore. It's 0.
No,
Right.
that's- you don't have the new one.
Because I
neither
took
do
it-
I.
Because I took it off because we had that money in
Yeah.
the recreation fund.
Right, so you were 93.80.
Oh, I see.
So if I'm understanding correctly, if I was to make a motion to use the recreation reserve fund balance
And
to cover this, I would need to increase it by 1,500 to cover the
Right.
sign.
so where it's a reserve fund, you folks might know better than me. Can you take it out of there?
So that's what I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
is that what we've been asked to do is just put a number in. So if we don't want to put a number in there because we have a different plan of where we want that to come from,
But the
Joe
number,
is sitting here,
but there's a number in there for Public Works
yes, but
out of
this
their
is,
reserve fund.
but this isn't a reserve. I mean, I know it says reserve fund balance. Is this are these reserve fund balances? Because down here, there's the little asterisk that says held in separate bank account.
Yeah, because some of those have their own bank account with our bank that we use.
So
It seems to me in the past, we've always used, I mean, if he says the snowmobile registrations and things like that, that's always been used to pay
right,
the
I just
recreation
remember
line.
him.
We've never raised money for it.
I remember him specifically saying that all of the revenues were gonna get listed.
Right.
And then,
Well, there are some that are, like telecommunication is dedicated, and I think in the impact spreadsheet that you have, if you bring it up, do you have it up, John?
I have it up.
The impact I did somewhere.
No,
And
but
then- and
we
then
got
go to-
yelled
and
at
then
last
go to
year.
revenues.
Hey, Joe, do you know of any reason why we couldn't transfer from the recreation fund?
I don't, but I don't have a history either, so.
Don't have one?
I don't have a history either.
You would have to have a separate vote
So I
to do that.
believe,
We've always
what was,
Revenue.
recall
That's
it,
what I yelled
we argued about this last year, and
Right.
this year we're trying to go along with it, with what the select board wants to do, is rather than us saying where the monies are gonna be transferred from, we're gonna just vote later on a total amount that's gonna be transferred from the like undesignated funds or from these different reserve funds, and the select board will, or town manager
So, select
Where's
board.
that line?
will fill in.
I
Oh,
get
over
that,
here?
but somehow these funds that are existing need to get emptied.
Mhm.
So we
There
either,
is too many.
we either need to request an article that we transfer these funds to a designated fund, or we spend them separately on an article like this. See what I'm saying? Otherwise, they'll never get spent, right?
We've always used snowmobile revenues, boat,
Yeah.
whatever.
I know.
for-
That's
We got-
ancient history.
We got
So,
yelled at.
I
We got
found-
very significantly reprimanded for continuing to do it that way. So
think
I mean,
have an
Joe,
answer.
Joe's sitting here though, hearing like what, right, Joe? This is something that you would go back and report to the select board that this is, if we say 0 to this,
So can I hate to interrupt,
No,
but
it's
I
fine.
want to interrupt. Because the revenues tab of Kevin's email, that is a spreadsheet titled 2023 Budget Impact SB Rec 12723.xlsx states that assigned fund transfers, Conservation Park and Recreation is going to transfer
oh, okay. You're right.
7,880, which then messes up the sign.
1,500 at the sign.
What does it say? 6,000.
6,000 was last
Oh,
year.
so we should have looked at that. It's already done. They've already got it. They
They've
covered
already
it.
planned for it.
So, right, that's why I said I hate to interrupt, but I'm forcing it.
But it doesn't
Because I
account for
found
the
the
sign.
answer.
But that number doesn't account for the sign.
Right, okay.
So we could amend, instead of 7880, we could ask for 9380 or whatever that number. To add your 1,500 for the sign, we could tonight just say we want to do.
Where were you pulling the 1,500 from?
I'm making a motion.
Well, no, we have a motion on
To-
the floor already. We have to,
I'd like to withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
second that.
John, okay.
Okay.
I didn't understand the sign deal, but we can request that number gets bumped up because it's in there.
Yeah.
From 78 to
Right,
whatever.
when we get to that
I
conversation.
know, I just wanted to hear where he was gonna pull the 1,500 from.
He was gonna pull the 1,500 from
From
the
that
same
account,
funds that
right?
they're pulling the 7880 from.
Just bear with me. Apparently, there are some funds that you have to put towards something. And is that one, and I
I'm
don't
thinking
have
yes.
it all clear
He
in my
wrote
head.
on his spreadsheet, snowmobile and boat excise taxes.
Yeah.
It's always been done.
And
Next to
ATV.
that number, he wrote that on that
Yeah.
number.
And I'm not even,
That and telecom.
Right.
and I'm not even really sure why it can't be listed with all the revenue. I don't know.
It
the
is
ins and
listed with
outs.
all the revenue.
Okay,
It is in his
okay.
thingamabob.
So our,
'Cause that's what most towns do, is they just list the revenue, because, I mean, if you're gonna fund an article, I mean, what difference does it make if you take it out of your left pocket or your right pocket, right? So,
to us it does.
well, I know, but it's a lot.
Well, I mean, we definitely would rather transfer this money
Yeah.
that's sitting in that account than
Absolutely.
raise the taxes.
Well, that's right, and that's why I took sign money out, because
Right,
I'm
but
on
the
the same
question, the
thing.
question is, do you need that sign money back in
Yes,
or not? Because we would raise that to the 9380 to,
right.
Cover the
He does need it
1,500.
back in.
Okay, so I'll make a motion.
There's your amount.
I'll make a motion for the, what's the title of this one?
Conservation Parks and Recreation.
Conservation Parks and Recreation, to fund this line, $9,380.
Where is the sign going? Under what line?
Line 2102.
Park maintenance for the river
Yeah,
park,
the river park. That sign's about ready to.
And so that number's now going to be 50,
9380. Oh, yeah, 1,500.
1,500,
not
Oh,
1,500,
17.
not 1,600.
not zero.
No, under park maintenance, it would be 1,500. Electricity is 200, so it's 1,700 total.
This is Runaround Park?
No,
No,
river park.
River Park.
I'm sorry, River Park.
River Park 2102,
Oh, so it should be 1,700.
Correct.
but it was zero.
No, the 1,500 was zero, but the 200 was for electricity.
1,500.
Oh, so River Park total is 1,700, yes, okay.
So your bottom line is back to 9380.
Do we have a motion?
I
Could-
made a motion.
Can I
I
ask,
second it.
I'll wait for discussion.
So it's been moved and seconded that we raise.
No,
No.
that we transfer or allocate. I think the allocate is the fancy word we're supposed to be using this year.
No, I don't, appropriate is the right word.
Appropriate? Okay, sorry, wrong A.
Gee.
So I'll finish this and then I have something to say. That we allocate, is that the word you want me to use?
Appropriate.
Appropriate.
Get the lingo.
And that's the same as transfer.
No,
It's not the same as transfer.
no, we're not talking about transferring anything here. We're talking about appropriating. money.
Appropriating, okay.
No, we don't transfer, we don't raise, we appropriate.
Right.
$9,380 for the Conservation Parks Recreation Fund. Discussion.
Do we, if it's a reserve fund, which is what you're listening at, do we have to vote to do? They look like they're gonna take it out of what you is that the $20,000
Correct.
reserve fund?
Yeah.
Or is there another, that fund they're gonna take it out of that? That's my only question. I mean, I'm all in favor of doing this.
Yeah, we don't want it to turn into a situation where we're raising that, because if we were raising that, we wouldn't be raising that. If we're transferring it, we want to transfer it.
We can make
That's-
that recommendation
What
later.
the select board
Okay.
gave us
That we're
is assigned fund transfers, so it looks like they weren't planning on raising it, they were planning on transferring it.
So that's what I want to clarify, and I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. Is that, are they indicating that?
Yes, under assigned fund transfers on the budget impact spreadsheet, they have transfer $700 from Conservation Parks and Recreation.
Okay, and so we've added an additional 1,500,
So we would increase that.
and so we know that that's in the fund. That extra
Yes.
1,500 is in the
Yes.
fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
got 23,000 or something.
Okay,
So one of the disadvantages we have is that the select board isn't really providing us what we're under our charter supposed to have, which is warrant articles. And I assume it's going to be a warrant article to transfer money from that fund. So I don't know how we vote on it, but we should vote on it somehow. We should make our recommendation known.
That's what we're doing, right?
Well,
Well,
we don't
I
have a
think
warrant article to vote on, I don't think, but
when we look at the revenues and talking about like undesignated funds and things like that, I would assume that's where we would do it, when we would do it later tonight, like.
But we don't
we'll
have a
make
warrant
note.
article. That's the point that he's
Oh,
like,
you
if we're trying to like do things by the book, they haven't given us recommendation warrant articles for us to make our recommendation.
They haven't even
on.
given us warrant articles for any of this.
right. They told us that. They told us they wouldn't have it
Right.
properly, so.
So I say we just go to the revenue tab and discuss it.
Yeah. you
and to
do.
clarify, Jerry, is somebody taking notes or summarizing this to share this information with the select board?
It's
So
usually
like in
you
this
and I that
case,
do that. You and I have done that historically.
really?
Yep.
All right, so we have to notify them that in this case, we'd be appropriating.
Well, it's on
And we will.
camera anyways.
We will.
Right.
Okay.
I got
They
it
can
all.
watch the movie.
I,
All
I
right.
love that you don't remember how that went last year.
Well, I just
Some
remember
things you try
how
to
to get
black
on.
out in life.
Yeah, now I mentioned, I do remember sending the email, but one time we had a secretary and I didn't have to.
Probably
Is there any
because I
further
wrote the email
discussion?
and distributed it.
Can't remember what I had for breakfast. Seeing none, it's been motioned by Heather and seconded by Jill that we appropriate $9,380. So do I have to say where it's being appropriated from?
No, we don't do that apparently.
Okay, that we appropriate that amount, $9,380 to the Conservation Parks and Recreation accounts. All those in favor? It's a vote. All right, moving on to,
Eureka Center.
Eureka Center. And I believe there was a revised, no. It might have been revised. I don't think there's any change. The change was just, a notation was made, what was unspent. Unexpended. So the select board, again, unless I'm advised differently, I'm just
Yep.
assuming that all these monies are being raised, the select board has recommended that the town raise $6,535 for the Eureka account.
Allocate. Appropriate. OMG.
Again,
Raise and appropriate?
we don't have warrant articles, so we're just, I mean, this is a little, we're not saying raise, we're
Right.
saying we authorize the appropriation of the money. I understand that's the legal language in an article. We appropriate it. It can be raised or transferred, but we don't make that decision.
Okay.
We make a recommendation, I guess.
So Jerry, remember how I mentioned to you the door still hasn't been replaced?
Mhm.
Did you ever have time to?
Ask if that,
Yeah, because it seems like the budget's the same as last year, which means the door is in there
Right.
again.
I don't know what the amount for the door was. Like, apparently,
1,500 or something.
apparently it was raised twice. I don't know the full, other than what I heard
Yeah,
from you, so.
right. We tried to use undesignated funds at one point to not try and raise it twice. So
Do you remember what the cost was for the door when they?
I'd have to look and pass.
I want to guess 1,500, but
I was gonna say, it's gonna be at least that.
yeah, because they had to replace the
More now.
frame and it was not just, yeah. it was-
They
I,
haven't replaced it.
No, they haven't.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if
Have
it's
to.
close to 18 this year.
Yeah.
So
Should-
this thing says that Eureka is another one that has money in an account. It says Eureka Capital 1719.
Right. Probably because we didn't get the door. So. And I don't see that in the revenues.
Yeah,
Well, I think the 1719 is, they charge like $50 to use it. And so there's a little bit of, money coming in that goes.
But that's
from-
his reserve, right?
It
Yeah, but
says
it-
capital.
But I bet you that's where it's going is the money. It's like dog, your boat license, other stuff. They don't get much, but
to rent it out.
to rent it out, it's $50. It's a good deal.
Your revenue looks different than my revenue. You're all colorful.
Do we need a motion or did I forget we already had one?
We haven't had a motion yet.
Working on a different date.
Are we ready for a motion? I will make a motion that we appropriate, Neil?
approve the budget. I don't know
Approve the
what
budget of $6,535 for the Eureka Center.
A second?
I second it.
So it's been moved by John and seconded by Neil that we appropriate $6,535 for the Eureka account. Any further discussion?
Just from my memory, these janitorial funds, they were in another place, were they in the admin budget and they got moved here or?
No, they've been there. I don't know why the 200 for 22. The 1,060, and the reason why I bumped it up is because I'm hoping that we're gonna use it more, so that we need to be cleaned more. I don't know if that's gonna, that's the direction we all wanna move in, I think, so that was the reason for the small bump in that.
I think it's already being used more. I mean,
It
planning
is.
boards used it. We're
Right.
gonna use it two more times in the next couple of months.
Well, I just,
Well, and even COVID being over, hopefully people will rent it more
Yeah.
too. So
I get my butt chewed because I cut in on a wedding one time with the planning board meeting. So it's being used.
just looking at the size of the increase, I was wondering if this was one of those administrative things we were trying to offset from somewhere else, and this is not, this is just increase based on, we anticipate additional usage.
I think it got
This
loaded wrong.
increase is based on this, though.
Right, yeah, it's-
Yeah, I went off the.
I remember this number was $1,200 for janitorial wages last year. I think that blank comma 200, I think the one got loaded wrong. I think that number was $1,200 last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm not objecting here, it just
Yeah, no, I would.
clarify where these numbers came
It's been
from.
very confusing with the way the numbers have.
Any further discussion? So it has been moved and seconded that The town appropriates $6,535 for the Durham Eureka Center account. All those in favor? All those opposed? Vote passes 7-1.
We need to find out the door.
Yeah. That door is bugging me, man.
I know. Last year it was bugging me out. I remember the janitorial thing because I last year I was trying to find all these places where we could save some money. And I suggested asking either the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or something like that to be able to do that for their community service or whatever. But
And, you know, if there's, let's just say 1,700 in capital,
mhm.
you know, I can go through the board. If a door's gonna cost 1,700 and we can pay for that, I'll get it done.
We
I'll get
appreciate
the
that.
door in there. That
I'm
should
writing
be.
that down.
Right?
Bill, you're gonna get your door.
And, you know, and maybe it didn't get done because of the turnover or something. See, I
There
don't
was,
know.
there was so much chaos last year that I'm surprised that,
And
yeah.
it's not that big
so.
a deal, really. I would put a door in a building. Anyway, I just throw that at you.
Next up is planning. I'm guessing John would want to be here for that.
Planning?
Why don't we pass on that for a moment? Someone can remind me to revisit it. Next up would be solid waste.
Ugh.
This is gonna be a thorn in everybody's saddle, including me, folks.
It always
Have you
is.
gotten any updates?
Yeah, you have one there. So just a little history
Kevin.
up until probably, I don't know, mid-December, I didn't even know where the solid waste contract stood. So I looked it up. And lo and behold, it ends on June 30th. Done. I was like, wow. I was kind of happy that I took the initiative to look because I didn't know. So with that, knowing that, we had to figure something out. We have to get a budget number in the budget because we're in budget season, right? So the question is, you know, do you go out to bid? It's a good idea to go out to bid, but giving the timing of everything in this budget, because we're right in the middle of it, to go out to bid and have other contractors investigate the town, drive the routes, seeing all that. We met with Casella to see if we could, well, when we contacted them to say we were going out to bid, they wanted to talk to us. So they came in and we talked. And given all of the changes in the trash, especially the recycled commodity market where China's not taking it, got to remember that your contract that you got into was 3 years ago, pre-pandemic. And we overspent in that line because of the diesel cost and that sort of stuff. So in talking with them, we felt it was better to get a year extension, see what that's gonna look like, to get a budget number in here, because we need one. I just got the budget, the proposal from them today, and this is what it looks like.
So what is it?
It's the solid waste, so
Where did that?
the you don't have it, I put it all out there. So the solid waste and recycle pickup only is $279,449. So it costs $99 a ton to dispose of the solid waste. It's $177 a ton to do the recycle. It's crazy.
So let's just put it all in the trash then.
I think that's where it's going after they pick it up, to be honest with you.
No, but really,
This is
Tell
just
people
their,
not to
I don't have
recycle.
any,
That's
these, I'm just
ridiculous.
reporting the numbers. I don't,
Okay.
So we're only, this budget, what we're chatting about, we're only responsible for half of this because it goes June to June.
No, it's a year extension.
This is
Right,
from
because
now
it goes
till.
June
This is
to
from
June.
June, yeah, June to June.
Right, so we're responsible for half of this in the 2023 budget.
No, you're still under the same contract that you were, so
So their extension didn't increase at all? They didn't increase their price for that 1-year extension?
this is the 1-year extension.
Right. So what was it previously
Well,
per
look at-
year?
Well, you can look at
I
what
guess
the,
is what I'm trying to figure out.
322,
yeah, it was
165.
322 was the actual. In the recycle commodity market changes.
All the time.
All the time, so this really truly is throwing a dart. Try to do the best you can with it. Because of that, because you're throwing a dart, and the recycle rate now market is really high. So when I talked to the guy at Casella, it could come down.
Okay.
So I would propose throwing 395 at it. And then you've got your bulky waste that they're doing by the hour now. And it's anybody's guess. I don't know how long it's gonna take them to go around for the day, if it's 8 hours, 9 hours.
Well,
Don't
this
go
is the
around,
one
they
you're
Well,
talking
they
about,
usually do this right at the town garage. They come in, they bring in,
and you set the hours.
yeah, and it's usually
But,
roughly
okay,
8 hours.
all right, so I didn't know that, but this is what the proposal
last
came
year.
in
It
at.
was short
So
last
wait, do they know that, or were you having a conversation about them going house to house picking up bulky
Well,
waste?
they did it last year or whenever they did it, right?
So this is based off what they're historically, because what we've
Yeah.
always done is set it up at
Right.
Public Works and everybody brings their own stuff.
They did it before Casella, right?
Yeah,
Right,
Casella,
so
yeah.
so it's the same thing.
Right, I assume, and they're just doing it by the hour, so they gotta haul it off. So they had like 5 trucks and.
They had more than that, but.
Oh, no, just to haul it,
Yeah.
just to haul it, so, but this is how the estimate came in. Just 17 an hour, I don't know how many hours we wanna do it for, I just don't know.
Typically, I think it was kind of thinking 8, but I think it was cut shorter last year.
It was.
2 years.
Yeah, it's got 0 last year.
Huh?
No, we
Zero
didn't do it.
last
We
year.
didn't do
Well, yeah,
it.
last year, but I mean the last time we did it.
So I just figured an 8-hour day and 9-hour, 10, and I don't know what you wanna, 15 grand, would that cover it? I mean, this truly is a.
So I think they're 2
Sure.
separate votes.
Yeah.
Right,
So I
right.
want to go back and focus on solid waste for a second. Can you explain to me how you came up with the 395?
Yeah, it's written right in your, this thing here.
But
This says
again, we're
397.
only responsible
Well,
for
because-
half of this year. The other half is the prior contract.
The contract doesn't expire till 30 June, so
Right.
January to June
We're
should be the old contract.
half the year we're working
Right,
on the
must-
old
Right,
contract.
so this one starts,
Right. So
July
we're
1st.
only responsible for half of this,
For this year,
For
plus
this year.
half
Plus
of
the
which
other
is
half next year, right?
That'll be in next year's
198,712.
budget.
Next year, we vote on the other half, plus whatever new contract has gotten
okay.
together.
If you wanted, this is one of them, yeah, if that's how,
And so last year's actual, if it's correct, let's
well,
assume,
well, it's what the invoices came
right,
in.
that's what I'm saying, if it's correct, because, like you said, invoices are still coming in and
This one is
this
pretty
one you
much-
feel is pretty good? Okay,
Yeah.
so half of last year's actual is
160.
$161,82.97. So that would total $359,794.97. Now,
I'll write it on the board. Go ahead, keep talking.
359,
Tell me the 161.
161,082.97. 198, 712.0
And that first number is for January through June of this year,
First number is January to June.
right? And that was out of last year's budget,
That's half of last year's actual.
right?
And then the other one is half of the contract that Jerry just got.
I wrote the wrong dates. Don't look at that. Tell me the total again. 359.
359, 794.97. But
794, 97, 97.
97 cents. So,
this is June.
but it's based on weight and tonnage, right? So it's not a set fee. It fluctuates. And that's why like we budgeted for 307,821 and it came in at 322. So we way under budgeted last year for it. I don't think I'm comfortable budgeting
400.
an extra 35,000 for it.
I don't think that when the select board or Jerry did this in the 6-month split, I think they took
The new
No, no,
contract.
the
I,
new price. And,
Jerry just said he would recommend budgeting 395.
Oh, sorry, I was writing.
That's
didn't
why I
hear that.
was, I
Sorry.
was
Right.
earlier.
Only
And
because
that's why I was like-
I've got my fingers crossed that the commodity market will help us a little bit, because it is based on tonnage. It was kind of interesting because when you looked at the 21, the 20 and the 21, the garbage was way up because people stayed home from COVID.
Yeah,
So
right.
there was a lot more garbage. So in talking to the person at Casella, he said, I wouldn't go with those numbers. Go with the 22 tonnage because that's probably going to be more in
Okay.
line with it. So that's why I went with the 275 and the 700 tons, because that's basically what the tons were for 2022.
Okay,
And so this, it was a year extension and for a whole year, even if you're gonna split up 6 months, but this was the whole year. So
Right.
I'm hoping it can be a little bit less than the
So
3
this,
months. You can go with the 3 if you're more comfortable with that.
this was from January 30th till next January 30th.
This goes from July 1st to June 30th of next year.
So here's what I come up with. 322,165 actual divided by 12 is 26,847 a month. Times 5 is $134,000. 5
five
months.
times, it'd be 6
January-
months.
January through May.
Be January through June.
You said it starts in June.
It-
July
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 1st.
July 1st.
First of July
All
there.
right. Change the number.
Will,
I think
will
we'll
they,
get the same
will they
number.
be willing to do it that way? You haven't talked to them.
Who they?
No, they're doing the.
They're
whole-
under contract
they're
with us
doing
till
like-
June.
Right. So you
I thought
already
you said
have
the
them.
contract ran out January 30th.
It
No,
runs
June
out.
30th.
June 30th, okay. my fault.
359.
Yeah, all right, now I'm on
Yes,
page.
that's what I got.
359, 794, 97.
582. 359.
And then you add a
360.
buffer.
So that's why, I mean, I think we got to put a little bit of a buffer in
I would
because we don't know what kind of,
365.
yeah, yeah. That's why I said I'm not sure I'm comfortable with a $30,000 buffer, but or 35,000.
365.
So, Jane brought up a good point is, you know,
You have no, everyone in the town's gonna say, shame on you, but reality, that's $21,600 you could save if we didn't
yeah, I
recycle.
mean,
It's terrible. I mean, we were all programmed, but
But honestly, my business is in Mechanic Falls.
mhm.
And they're still not accepting some recyclable items because they have no place to bring them. It just goes in the hopper when you bring it in.
again, so to Jane's point, why pay the extra
Our poor grandkids.
dollars for recycled tonnage? And
Something to educate the town about at town meeting.
You'd have to give more tags out.
Yes, you would, which
A
would,
lot more tags.
but they generate money to offset that because people would have to,
Now, see, now you're asking people to buy what
Right,
they're not
if
getting
you're
with their
gonna do it
taxes.
this way, you want to give them the tags.
but didn't we see this here? Manager proposes, what's the 2540 to buy more
We gotta buy tags every other year.
I thought you were gonna make us buy the tags. I was like, oh, that's not gonna fly.
I think scientific as you get is
So this is something
370.
I feel like we really need to like have a huge discussion on, not necessarily at the budget committee level, but at the town level. It's like if you're paying for someone to clean your house and all of a sudden the price has just gotten too expensive to pay that person to clean your house, you start cleaning your own house again, right? I wish I had a house cleaner. Anyway, we talked about this a little bit. The town that I grew up in, Topsom, and there you have a transfer station, and we bought our trash bags, and my dad and I went to the dump every single Saturday. And I am very curious to know what the cost of a pay to play, if we paid a town that has a transfer station or dump, a fee, what that fee would look like, for us to know there. It's my understanding that a lot of towns no longer offer curbside pickup. And this is quickly approaching the cost of the administrative budget and the fire department's budget. And is this a service that the town still wants to continue?
And I think that's a good discussion, you know, a recommendation would be to get through the town budget, come up with a number, and then have a, you know, garbage committee or something. Because even if you stick with Casella, they're not talking about picking up my garbage bag and throwing it in the truck anymore. Potentially, they're talking about the mechanical arm that grabs it,
Yeah.
which for, you know.
Some residents are gonna be interested in that. I've got a 1,000-foot long driveway. I'm like, how am I gonna get that down?
There's a lot of people that don't-
I beat you, yours is
I'm not gonna
paved,
roll
I got
up
an
and down.
unpaved.
Oh, I'm unpaved.
Oh, you're-
So I agree that we need to figure this out
Yeah.
for this budget for this year, but this is a conversation that needs to be had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all
Europe
right,
used to be able to go to Freeport, they had to pay a fee.
Yeah.
But that was not for household garbage, just for
Right.
recycling stuff.
So are we comfortable with the recommendation of 365 or 370 or what do you folks?
Well,
think?
I would look at what they went over last year was over $10,000.
Yeah.
So I
right,
guess
but
I'd be comfortable.
Casellas was also saying, look more at when you're figuring out this contract, base it on your 2022.
Right, well, that is 2022.
So that's why when I did the budget, when I did my calculations, I based it on actual, not on budget.
I know, I don't have the new one, I guess.
I'd use 370 maybe, because you're adding,
I think I'd agree
So-
with that.
11,000, not
Yeah.
even 11,000, you're really only adding 10,000.
and you're gonna have more homes, you're gonna have other stuff, so.
True.
I'd err on this one, again, I just like to throw extra money, but I would go a little bit higher than that.
So we can offset it with undesignated.
Are you making a motion?
I'm giving everyone a chance to
So,
digest. I'm
so-
full of scribbling really fast.
Right now, we're
looking
what,
at
at 370,000?
370, yeah.
And so do we need to add to that the 2540 for the tag purchase?
Yes.
Oh,
So it would be
Catch.
370,000 plus,
yeah. 372,540.
what did I just say? 2540?
So you're gonna add to the tag purchase, because you're gonna need more.
That's the
Are
2,540.
you giving them the other 26 tags?
What do you mean? No,
No,
he's
we're not
just
talking about-
purchasing some for it to
Yeah.
have.
No, no, I
Purchase
know
the
that.
stickers,
Yeah, I get that. But,
Same deal, 26 like always,
and then you pay $3 a piece for the rest of them.
right? And then we can have a conversation if we think that if a resident wants to go up and explain that recycling costs more. That hurts my soul to say that out
I
loud,
agree, me too,
but
me too.
Well, I agree.
But that's, you know,
I had the same thought you did. I'm glad you said it out loud.
I'll make a
I'll be
motion.
blackballed.
Go for
it. If you'll read me the number one more time.
It's 372,540.
Correct.
I will make a motion that we appropriate $372,540 for solid waste.
Seconded.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded, moved by John, seconded by Neil, that the town appropriate $372,540 for the solid waste account. Any further discussion?
Does it make sense to you, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm just figuring out,
I know, that's why I wanted to give you a
yeah.
moment.
because we gotta talk about undesignated and how we pay for this, because it's up, so I'm just figuring out,
Are you good with the 372, whatever it was?
yes, I got it, and then I'm subtracting that from what was in the budget.
Oh,
It's
right.
20,000 more than what you had originally, right?
Right, but then I gotta add Calvin's gas thing to it, because, there's different ways we can pay for it. So right now, we're taking 200,000 in undesignated
Mhm.
funds. So the question is, with these new amounts do we want to use undesignated funds?
A little bit more.
A little bit more, and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure that out.
Did we ever
for you.
determine if undesignated is the 1.9 or the 2?
No,
or
no,
something?
no.
Okay. Okay, we don't have to continue. It's just a quick question. Okay.
So we still need to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Any further
Didn't you make
discussion?
one? It's second? Is
Sorry?
there just, yeah.
Further discussion? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded that the town appropriate $372,540 for the solid waste account. All those in favor? It's a vote.
When does the select board meet next, Joe?
14th.
So it's not this Tuesday? Okay, good. I got time to make my notes.
You might also note that that meeting, I believe, if I recall, Jerry, that we're gonna hit the proposal for the payroll company
Yeah.
is gonna do a presentation that
Yeah,
meeting.
he's gonna come talk. Yep.
Some members might find that interesting.
So we don't need to make a recommendation about bulky waste. That's just its own warrant article.
It's
Yeah, I
next.
think so. I think that's the way they.
It's next. There is a line. We gotta chat about it.
Oh,
But are we gonna make a recommendation for which one of the, or I guess it doesn't matter.
Well, we need to come up with is it 8 hours, 9
8
hours,
right,
6
that's what I was
hours?
thinking.
Where were you seeing that? I don't see a line for that.
Well, it's on this
Line-
page.
Line 19 on the 2023 budget impact SB Rec
She's-
1-27-23.
she's looking at the,
Kevin's little cheat sheet.
Joe,
what
do
did-
you
what amount did he
know,
put
or
in?
Jerry, do you know, is the select board
12,000.
asking us to make recommendations on this tax impact tab?
I don't think so. I think that just sort of figures everything out.
Right.
That's just kind of figures out what the taxes impact's gonna be, what the mill rate goes up, and it all kind of changes when you add in that green cell where you put the undesignated. So
So again, our charter is to make financial recommendations to the town. So we can make recommendations on this, whether they want us to or not. And if they don't present it to the town, we can present it to the town at the town meeting.
Right.
Well, I think we should have
So-
a bulky waste, because
All right.
it's been ending up on Stackpole.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about the fund transfers and all that.
So bulky waste day, the select board, without having this piece of paper, recommended $12,000. What Jerry got, if it's an 8-hour day, it would be $13,600. I've never participated in bulky waste day.
The last one we had, I believe, was 4 hours. We did it in 4 hours.
Or 6 or so, yeah. I mean,
But I'm gonna bet you, since there was 2 years of COVID and we didn't have one,
Right.
that you're gonna easily hit 8 hours or damn close to it. Especially because, like I said, some of this bulky waste has been ended up on the side of the Stackpole.
You gotta quit taking it across the road, Mark.
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious who's participated in bulky waste in the past in this room? How long have you waited in line?
I don't go first thing in the morning. If you go later in the day, but you go at 8 o'clock to probably 10 or 11, you're waiting in line.
And sometimes you'll have 20, 30 cars in line, and all of a sudden you don't have any, and then all of a sudden there's a short lull, then they show up again.
That's because of all things Durham.
Well, I don't know where it's from, but.
I think if you have a hope of getting this passed at the town meeting, you want to go with the 8 hours.
Yeah,
I'm curious, were they saying the minimum they'll do is 8 hours? Or you just randomly did 8, 9, and 10 hours, Jerry?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I should have said Jerry first.
What's that?
Are they saying, is Casella saying if they do bulky waste, it's a minimum of 8 hours?
No. They're 17, all they gave me was 1,700 an hour. And I'm
Okay.
not sure how long it would take.
I don't think people would participate much beyond 1, 2 o'clock, which is that would be 6 hours if it's 8 to 2.
It has started winding down about that time, the last time that we did it, but before that, I don't know where some of the stuff come from, but I can't imagine that the same trucks every year show up 4 times.
They may not
But it
want to haul,
happens.
they may not want to haul a whole bunch of trucks and people over there for less than 8 hours.
Well, you got neighbors.
That's
on
why
the-
I asked if
You
it
get
was a
family in
minimum.
Pownell and Freeport and whatnot. Hey, it's free in Durham, so.
And
They
it's a
grew
pretty
me.
good setup how they do it. There's usually somebody at the front row, out there on the road, and they gotta try to make sure they don't block in the driveways, there's signs up. And there's somebody making sure that they are from Durham. and then they actually move through fairly steady.
There is, I mean, it's really well done.
Right, how, you know, because they can go in and there's, you know, some here for like chairs or whatever, and then it goes to the metal part, and then they have each one of the bays where the trucks are out back, there's 6 bed, they have them there, then they have somebody inside for tires and somebody inside.
There's
for-
probably close to 10 trucks
TVs
and their
and
crews.
Do we
with
really need to be talking
So-
about what do we do?
So the budget that's currently in the line, the $12,000 covers 7 hours because 7 hours is $11,900.
I think that's, I'm on board with that.
So
We just put it up there, that's,
What was the
that's
amount?
down, it's time.
What was that amount?
12,000.
12,000.
12,000 is what the select board, and I'm going to put words in their mouth, probably randomly put in because they didn't have this. So they were working on past pricing and probably,
Probably
was
going
thinking-
to the crew.
yeah. Do you know,
12,000.
Joe, was the
Where's the
select board
12,000?
thinking of an 8-hour day or
So for the bulky
when they
waste,
came up with that number?
Yeah.
12,000.
Yeah, we just-
we way that we normally did. I mean, I assume it'll be open, you know, honestly, I
Where is this?
didn't realize it, you know.
I can't find it.
That it was, I know, I didn't realize it was a length of time either.
It's not solid waste.
On the sheet here.
Where is this?
So,
Oh.
the-
Budget
I
impact.
think, I mean, personally, I think 7 hours. That's if you open at
This
8
one.
and,
Lucky
or
way-
you
oh, it's-
open at
Nails.
8 and close by 3,
That's what the times used to be.
8 to 3.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
line
and that's
19.
11,900 and
Across
they
the
recommend
worksheet.
12. I think
Yeah.
it has cost us $10,000 in the past and I
10,500.
think they just
Yeah.
upped it because the price of everything has gone up. That's what my
I
recollection
think that
was.
was.
So I make a motion to appropriate $12,000 for bulky waste day.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved by Jill and seconded by Heather that the town appropriate $12,000 for a bulky waste day.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
I don't, and I guess I want to be on record. I'm not saying that by me saying this that I advocate we have a bulky waste or that we don't, but I think we give the 130 people that show up at town hall meeting the right to vote whether they want bulky waste or not.
Is that how you did it last time?
Yeah.
Because I would think that's appropriate, yeah.
Last
It's-
year's the
it's
first year
there.
that we haven't done it
Yeah.
because we gave it out as the option.
Yeah.
And then people advocated for
Right.
the cost savings.
We
and
separated
so-
it out from solid waste last year.
And that's the way the board has wants it to. They
Yeah.
just want to ask.
Yeah, so that we can ask if they want it or not.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded that the town appropriate $12,000 towards a bulky waste day. All those in favor? All those opposed? Vote is 7-1.
7-2.
Jane's vote doesn't count.
Or
What- oh,
6-2.
Sorry.
I'm
So
just
6-2,
shocked.
sorry about that.
6-2. So now we gotta go back to planning.
All right, again, there was a revised budgets, passed out, dated 1/27. Select board has approved for the town to appropriate $46,420 for planning.
I have questions.
Yeah.
Is it?
Sure.
So on 1016 town planner line, the percentage is 7.28 and I'm wondering why that's more than the 5% raise that everyone seems to be. Why is that amount more?
It's probably based on the 22 budget. You'd have to click in there and see what cells it is, but it's probably the difference between the proposed 23 budget and the 30 and the 22 budget. It's just the way it come up.
That doesn't even seem
Damn,
right.
they're
So why did you increase the proposed to 33,280?
This is actually what he makes. I took what he makes and I times it by 20, got that number and times it by 52.
Oh, because it was a split year. Because the town voted for more hours for him last year.
Yeah,
So
he-
it was a split
It
year.
was, he didn't really start working.
Right,
at,
until
you
the middle
know,
of the year or
exactly,
until
like
after
April,
April.
May, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
He
Okay.
did a little bit of consulting is about all.
yeah,
Well, he's paid by the hour, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So it's based, that increase is based on the budget last year, not on actual.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. Wait a minute.
I will speak in favor. We have gotten our money's worth with the town planner, so.
Legal, this has its own legal line, but we have a legal line in the administrative budget. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
yeah,
talk.
I just carried it over. It was in the line. I just carried it.
Yeah, we get quite, the planning board, the chair of the planning board, we get questions about, can you do this? What's the rules? We're going through it now with the affordable housing as an example. We've gotten legal opinions on, what do we need to do with that? So that's the difference is we use, I think, by the same town attorney,
Yeah.
but we use and work against that budget.
Okay, so it's so that you have the ability to see where the legal is getting spent out of.
Planning.
If it's planning, it would hit here
Yeah,
and you'd be able to
I'm
see
assuming
that.
that's why they had it in that
Okay.
department. Again,
Nope.
if we take this administration budget and make it look like Public Works, where there's legal, it'll all be combined into legal. Do you know what I mean? They won't be legal in this department, legal in that, it'll be legal all the way down through the administration, so.
What is our arrangement with legal? Do we pay by the hour? Do we have a contract with someone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's on retainer, so he's available to us to call, and then depending on the time that he has to spend doing what he does to resolve or give us advice or whatever, he charges.
And it's the same person that we've been using all along.
Yes.
Oh, we didn't get a new
Jack,
person last year?
What's his name? Jack,
It's Jack something.
Oh, I thought
Give
we
me time. I've
Weber?
got
No.
paperwork from
Yeah.
him.
Curtis Weber.
yes, not him.
No, it's Jack.
Jack something, I can't remember.
He actually works for the same firm, or at least he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Begins with
So
an
we
H.
did get a new lawyer, Joe?
Well, it's the same firm.
It's the same firm.
I think the other guy retired.
I just used him the other day.
And I remember dealing with Jack back when I was on planning.
Yeah, I just can't remember his last name.
I think the other guy retired that we used to deal with, that's why.
And then maybe somebody who does selectmen stuff versus this person may be more of a planner. Deal.
Right.
I don't think they're a big firm, but they probably have a couple of different people.
What are admin select fees, dues? What is
Things like we have an MMA. It's a professional planner registration. I don't know what is whatever his professional dues are. I don't know what his title is, but
ACIP, maybe the
There we
American
go.
Institute
Thank
of
you.
Certified Planners. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I might have more. Hold on, let me look at my notes.
So I'm wondering about this $2,000 for the historical preservation request. That's like just a slush fund for these guys, or?
Where's,
They requested it. They've requested money before to do outreach, education. They anything that we do to help them here with mailings or secretary help. That sort of training.
So
And I don't know, and I didn't know what they did in the past, but I know Lois come in and was asking, and typically, I guess they do ask for those funds. So she was asking for 3,200, but because they have money left in the reserve account, I think it was, or maybe it's I just deducted the 32 and put 2,000.
So I know that at the beginning of the year, they were talking about drafting a new historic ordinance and potentially removing the historic district the way things are now. And they've decided to table that for this year because we have all this other land use stuff that's happening. And they're gonna have to pick that up again next year. My,
Wouldn't that be the planning board, not
well, it's in,
fees under historical?
No, they're a separate entity. So like this year for the Resource Protection Conservation Commission kind of took the lead on, drafting some stuff off. They did the information meetings and stuff like that. I think that's what the Historical Commission, and I'm not speaking in favor of this, but that's what they would like. And I think the other thing is they want to do more outreach. These are the historical buildings in Durham. This is.
I think as we go into potentially changing the historic ordinance, they want to have the ability to be able to do outreach and educate and that type. This is more money than they typically ask for. My guess is that knowing that that's what's coming next year, that's why they're asking for it.
And they may want to bring in a speaker or two to educate people and have money to pay them.
Well, and to her point, hire consultants. I think maybe, and I don't want to, this is going to come out all wrong, but they've got the new leadership is a little more active in that thing. And so I think they want to do more.
It might even be a thing where they really want to be able to because they don't have any budget for mailing or anything like that. So if they wanted to be able to, send a postcard to everybody, that's got to come out of somewhere.
So where is that $1,200 you're planning to get to them?
It's in the, historic conservation, is it in this one? So there's like a restricted funds.
Restoration?
Fund,
No, it's a historic,
that's not on there.
Well, it needs to be appropriated though, right? It needs to be appropriated.
I don't think it's been touched for a long time.
So what's the restoration fund then?
So here's.
Well, down here it says Union Church Roof
Yeah,
16.
saving money for rebuilding the old town.
So it
office.
had 38,000 in it. They took 16 out for the roof and they have 21,000 left.
That's the restoration fund?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what he's talking about?
No,
No.
he said that's not it.
So my take is I don't want to give him $3,200, but
I know,
if
but they didn't take it out.
if he's got $1,200 to transfer to them, and there is no other appropriation of that $1,200,
I think they
I would
moved it to
vote
assess.
for this, as long as we appropriate the $1,200 from the fund that's, and we give them $800. So they have $2,000 to use this year.
2,000 plus that 1,200.
No,
Just
2,000 total.
altogether.
There is no other that I know of budget line for the $1,200 he's talking about. You'd have to plan to get it to him some other way.
I see what you're saying.
There's a lot of funds that don't show up in here. There's the Mickey somebody other scholarship fund that has $150 in it. And
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of other funds that exist out there.
I don't see it.
The Mickey Koval Fund?
What's that?
Is that the Mickey Koval Fund?
Thank you, sir.
Anyway, I think that would be a bit of a compromise from my perspective, and they get $2,000 and 1,200 of it would come from this fund he's talking about.
That's something, well, maybe I have to wait for the select board meeting to ask about it, but
so here's where you'll find in here where there's some restricted fund balances that are, I guess, only restricted to those funds, and you'll see, this is where the River Park project, and I don't even know what the River Park project was. Then, you have these funds, but you can see the
So I guess some of
Historic District Commission has that 1330. So that's why I reduced it.
Thank you.
so Neil, do you want to just speak to what you were just saying?
So what I was asking and stating, I guess, was, Jerry, that there is, as far as I know, there's no line item for that 1330 you want to give them in the budget.
Yeah, and you're right, because
Okay, so I'm saying, let's take that 1330 and apply it towards the 2,000 in this planning line,
okay,
and we give them a total of 2,000. That's what I want to do. Give
So
them a
another
total of 2,000.
$670.
So we raise 670.
say that one.
You got 1330 in this fund,
Yeah,
which I would apply towards the 2,000 in this planning budget line.
Okay.
So we give them 670.
okay.
raise 670.
Right. And that's fine if that's what you're doing, just knowing that they requested 32.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
So based on that, there is no other line for the 1330 in the budget,
No,
an appropriation. Okay.
no.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we that we appropriate $46,420 for the planning board.
Can you say that number again?
46,420.
Which is the amount
Just
that's,
the amounts.
The amount that they're
They're
recommending.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
and so we don't have no provision or anything based on what your conversation with Jerry?
They're not asking for us, but I think we should give it. Our charter says we recommend financial stuff. So I think we should come up with our own recommendations on transfers.
Right. That's
So does
it.
the motion need to include that recommendation?
No,
No, because we can't make it.
you get it when we get to revenues after we go through everything.
There's no warrant article that we're voting on. There's no warrant article that we're voting on for this, so.
So is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry. Heather,
Me, yeah.
It's been moved and seconded that we appropriate $46,420 for the planning budget. Any further discussion?
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, so I don't mean it to be rude or disrespectful, but were you planning on voting on this one? As you're the planning board chair, or do you feel you should recuse your?
you know, I think I should. I should not because I do get a stipend. So you're right. Yes, I will abstain. Thank you. That's
Yeah, no.
good point.
No, it's fine.
So smooth you are.
Yeah, Rocky Road.
It's absolutely appropriate. Thank you. It's absolutely appropriate.
Any further discussion?
Well, it depends on how the vote goes. And I'll decide.
Right. You can be the tiebreaker.
Seeing none,
Probably somebody else probably needs a second then. Oh, you did.
Yeah.
it's been moved and seconded that we appropriate $46,420 for the planning budget. All those in favor? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one
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 abstention.
abstain.
Thank you, Joe. I would not have thought of
Yeah,
that.
no, that's fine. It's not like it really would have affected the vote either way, but.
But nobody can say that,
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yes.
Anybody want to do solid waste again?
No.
Telecommunications. The select board has approved appropriating the requested amount of $52,000.
Did we get a new one on that, or are we going off the
It
old?
was a revised on 127. I believe that the only thing that changed was they reported what was unexpended.
Okay.
I have some comments or questions, I guess. They're twofold. One is this labor budget here is going to cover the IT folks covering the counter. So, because Devin and Kim are going to cover the counter, so that $25,000.
Yeah, they get basically 10 hours a week.
Each.
Yeah, so for 20 hours.
Then the question is,
So, but they might, that's really what they're scheduled to work, but there are times when they're needed more than that. And so there's a little bit of a cushion there for that, for like meetings that go over and other meetings. It's hard to determine really how much they're really gonna be. So I just made them a part-time 20 hours.
no, I'm good with that. I just want to make sure that covering the meetings
Yeah.
like tonight or planning board are a priority over the counter. I get,
Yeah,
we start
yeah.
running out of time. It's a question for you, Jared.
Right. So like updating web pages and that stuff doesn't really take all that long. So when they're not doing that,
If you're comfortable.
I just want them to give the ladies their lunch break. So the counter is
Yeah.
still.
I just want to make sure
They're here
that
from like 10 to 2.
They like to eat.
Take their break. So they're here from like 10 to 2 for the most part.
I want to qualify that.
But then like when Devin is here for the most part, he won't come in during those days. But like your meeting is once a month. Select board meetings are,
I wish it was once a month, but
Well,
yes.
don't you meet on the first?
We do, but we've got, you know, 2 public hearings that were, you know, kind of new.
You know, and see, that's really where it gets hard to kind of estimate how much they can do, because hopefully we're gonna have be more of those hearings than we've had in the past and that sort of thing. So it's hard to put,
On land use, yeah,
it was hard to estimate exactly what they were.
they covered conservation. Yeah, that was a question. If you're
Yeah,
comfortable,
so-
you cover it, I'm good.
Well, you know what? It's hard. If I had increased this, I would, I probably would have.
Well, you're increasing it by almost $10,000.
Well, no, not
From
really.
the budget of last year.
Well,
No.
but he pulled the meeting
Yeah.
secretary out of.
Other
Out of like
lines.
planning, it's not there
I
anymore.
actually reduced it, actually.
Okay, all right. And don't we have to be, if they're at the desk, or at the window, don't we have to pay their FICA, Medicare, workers' comp?
That was one of my questions. If you gotta make it part-time, do you have to pay the?
TBD, you said.
Yeah, and I believe that's absorbed in the other, because it's not gonna be that much, because they don't make a lot of money.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna be okay in the FICA and all that stuff, because that really is estimated based on what they're all kind of making. So I think we'll be okay. I wouldn't be overly concerned with that.
So I have a question about, I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. The access channel.
Yeah.
I've been asking, I know you haven't been here.
No,
I've been
right.
asking for 3 years. If someone wants to give me the phone number, I would be happy to take it on to call and find out what we're legally bound to do. You know, I feel like this is something that we just keep kicking the can down the road, and I really want to know what the deal is.
I thought we were under contract, like a 10-year contract, so we really
But
couldn't.
someone said the contract was up. This is the thing. This is like, and then it just continues
Circles,
to
yeah.
get not addressed.
Yeah.
Just stop sending them a check, they'll let us know.
And you know, and I don't know. I don't even really know the legalities of it either. I mean, we're streaming the meetings now, and
I know there's a lot of towns that don't have an access
Right.
channel, so I
we
would
gotta- we
assume it's
def-
not a legal
Heather,
retirement.
we can get your number. Or, you know, we can take care. We just get so much going in
Right.
here.
That's why I'm offering
Yeah,
to,
that's
if a
awesome.
phone call needs to happen, I'm more than happy to make it.
Perfect. All right.
Sorry, you're not an administrator on the account. We can't speak with you.
Exactly.
And I suppose that we could make a quick phone call to our lawyer to see if there's any legalities there. If he says no, then let's just get rid of it. That's what would be my vote. You know, are there people really out there watching on TV? I mean,
I did, but now I go to YouTube
I do.
because it's a lot more comfortable in my recliner with a cocktail than it is sitting in those chairs listening.
So, you know, I'm
'Cause
really,
you can't speak, so might as well be comfortable.
I think it's a thing that would be a really great poll question, like to put it out as a poll, like how many people are still using the access channel. I think as more people switch to,
YouTube.
well, Fidium or
I think it should be a
Fidium.
great
Right,
executive
Video
video
decision.
and smart
making
TVs.
myself. I think an executive decision should be made.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know how many ads that the townspeople have been putting on there? I know some of the nonprofits put stuff on there.
It's really boring when there's not a meeting going on.
Yeah, I just want to know if we are under a contractual obligation to
Right.
keep it.
I don't know if it's contractual or if it's legality. We'll look into it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move we appropriate $52,000 for telecommunications.
Second.
It has been moved by Neil and seconded by John that the town appropriates $52,000 towards the telecom account. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Oh, now I do just a quick clarification question. So the 11.27% increase is mostly because you moved all the secretarial from other departments into this line? Pretty much, is that
Yeah,
correct? 'Cause There's not a lot of big increases in too many of the lines.
no, and again,
$5,000 is labor, line 108.
Yeah, but again, it's not, it
And
it
that's what he
came out
said
of
was the
planning.
That's
secretary.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, it came- and I just wanted to ask,
Yeah,
to make
that's
sure I
fine.
understood correctly. Okay. I'm done.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded that the town appropriates $52,000 towards the telecom account. All those in favor? And it's a vote.
All right, do we want to discuss raise pool?
That's 701, Milt?
I'm sorry?
Is that 701?
Is that where we are?
No, I was
701.
We can't
You
discuss
abstain?
it.
No, I voted.
Oh, you did.
That's
Eight-
good.
Eight.
That's fine.
We have some more capital,
Do we need to vote general
Gotta
assistance?
do,
general
No.
assistance.
Oh, do we?
yeah.
Oh, we
I've got a sheet, so.
Yeah, general assistance.
I make a motion that we appropriate $600 for general assistance.
Second,
It has been
Just try to keep
moved
it
by,
moving.
motion by Jill and seconded by Neil that the
John.
town, John, sorry. The town appropriates $600 for the general assistance account.
So, oh, do you have something you want to say?
No, I'm ready to
So,
vote.
no, I just, are we discussing, just very quickly, there is a fund that has a balance of $11,245 in it for this. So I'm
The
just,
Durham Heating, I think Durham
That's
Heating Fund is
restricted.
different.
Yeah, for that.
Durham Heating Fund is Durham Heating Fund. General assistance is for anything if you fill out enough of the red tape paperwork.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And we're kind of
Where's that
legally
balance?
required. What happens with general assistance is if somebody actually applied
mhm.
and got approved, and let's say they got approved for $10,000, the state reimburses us. So the 600 is just kind of there as a placeholder.
Perfect.
Okay, and so is it getting spent or
No,
does it
it hasn't
goes
been
into
spent.
undesignated? What happens to it?
Undesignated.
It
Yeah,
goes
but
into,
then
okay.
it just goes back.
And then it just
Okay,
goes back.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a constant revolving door.
Did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
Thank
been
you.
moved and seconded that the town appropriates $600 for general assistance. All those in favor? And vote. All right, so
Debt
Oh.
service.
let's vote on that.
Yeah.
Debt service.
The total for debt service this year is $958,394.
we don't have any say in that, right? Let's see what a default.
I make a motion that we appropriate $958,394 towards our debt.
I seconded it.
Moved by Jill, seconded by Neil, that we appropriate $980,862 towards our debt payment schedule. Any discussion?
958,
958,394.
2023.
Yeah, I'm in the- oh. Sorry, $958,394.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that the town appropriates $958,394 towards the debt payment schedule. All those in favor?
Can
If
you,
you don't pay that, it's called a default.
can we just look at that to see what's going off there for next year?
The
159,000.
Down a
Road
lot next
bond.
year.
Yeah.
168,000 or something.
There's a road bond. All right, so we've got a couple more items under capital, and then we have a few other funding articles we have to vote on. Let's see. The select board has recommended that the town raise and appropriate for future assessing and market revaluation reserves, the amount of $60,000.
I have a question. Okay.
Yeah.
So the municipal capital balance at January 1st of 2022 was $97,632. And then it says there's a $60,000 appropriation in 2022. And the amount, the 7,120 that was spent on the copier, leaving a balance of $30,000 $512 in that account. My question is, we didn't do the assessment, so where's that money now?
Undesignated funds.
Right, so it got pulled, I think the warrant article, transfer for, so they transferred it out of the municipal capital account.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually put it in to the expense account. And it never got done. So it's really,
Shouldn't it be put back then?
exactly, so we'll put it back, but what we're trying to do here is save up enough money to do the full market, which is gonna be, Donna, the assessor says, it's gonna be somewhere between 150 and 200.
Right, so
So
I
it-
understand,
it
I'm on
didn't-
board
right,
with it. I just
so-
want to know where it is right now.
Well, it would have got put into undesignated, we're gonna have to take it back out and put it back in.
Okay, so when
If that's, sorry, Heather,
It's
if
okay.
that's truly what the policy is, which it is, right, when it gets put into an expense account, and we don't spend it, it goes back into undesignated, so we just have to.
If it
take
got taken out of a capital reserve, it's
Right.
supposed to, yeah.
Right,
well, that's the thing is that if it did it in fact, because this page right here is what you show for balances in this earmarked account as capital reserve for the municipal account.
right,
Okay.
Because in 2022, last year, that's what the people voted on,
Right,
was to take it out.
right. And that work didn't happen,
That
so.
work didn't happen.
So what I'm getting at is, I'm just gonna say what I'm just gonna say, is that money got put in and didn't get used for what it was supposed to get used for. So I'm wondering if that is how these labor line the fact that the labor line was so overspent in the administrative budget, if that is how that was covered.
I don't think it,
so.
because it wouldn't be able to go into administrative
Right.
budget.
Right.
It went into the.
So when we're looking at all of these things and we're seeing like revenue and this, I don't see a place where that money is. I don't see where that $60,000, you know what I mean? When I'm looking
Probably
at,
never got taken out of the fund.
well, yeah, but they're
showing the
saying,
balance.
no, that shows the balance and the auditor did this.
It's missing.
It's not there. That's what, so if I just want that money, that number
If it's
needs
not
to
there,
say.
where is it?
What fund did it come from?
Yeah.
The municipal capital account on January 1st was $97,632. And then we appropriated $60,000 out of it. And now the balance is $30,512, but that assessing work didn't get done. So that $60,000 needs to go back in there and that balance should say 90.
And
Well-
that money should now be used from that rather than raising it again.
No.
No,
No,
we need
we
to raise
need
more
to
because it's
raise
gonna
it.
cost more.
So we just need to make sure that we put that $60,000 back in and keep tracking it. And if you, in this capital, want to do another 60, now you're gonna have 120.
Right.
Now, to do that market.
Right, which I'm, if that's what we decide to do, I'm on board with that. I just don't want that $60,000 to just
Yeah,
have not stayed earmarked for that if that's what the goal is and what we're working towards.
yeah, and just keep in mind too, talking to Donna, to get a market reval, we really have to commit to it if that's what we're gonna do and go out to bid, because it takes a while to get these folks on board to commit, because they're busy doing reavals for other cities. So it's really just a commitment to the town, to her, so she can do that work to put the RFP out and hopefully,
So is that the plan to have a warrant article this year?
well, just to take it out of,
Right, but if we gotta get the ball rolling, is it the plan of
I
the
don't think that
select
we
board and
vote.
the town to say, do you vote for us to get the ball rolling?
I don't think so.
I think we're a couple of years away.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the idea is to try to get it done in 2025. So in 2024, we're gonna ask for another 60, so that's gonna get us 180. That hopefully will be enough to do the full market reval.
So
Is the
how
thought.
does the homestead, I guess that, last year it was presented to us that if we didn't do the mini reval, that we weren't really gonna get any homestead exemption. And I understand prices skyrocketed and things like that, but is the taxpayer not gonna see?
Wouldn't get the full value of the homestead exemption.
Right, it goes to
They get-
below
they
the
get what they're
lowest
getting now.
amount.
We're all getting it. Well, those who qualify get it now.
Right, so what we
So
get,
what is that? I guess I'm just trying to
I don't know
find
what
out
the
what
number
it
is, but
is.
the higher your valuation, the more you get, which is why they wanted it up.
well, and because we aren't at market value, we get a percentage. So
Right.
like if we're at 80 or 75% of what another town that's getting their full homestead, they would be getting 100%. We may only be getting 75 or 80.
Last I knew it was 80%.
Yeah.
Something right.
But does it go below 80%, I guess is my question. It can.
Yeah, I think there's a threshold, if I remember them explaining, there's a threshold down, like the 70%, that's what you want to take.
Yeah, you don't wanna go below
You don't want to go
70,
below that number, so that's why.
and we're getting close.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me the way the market changed if we're already below 70%.
And I think in talking with Dawn, and one of the reasons why she was hesitant to do it, it was because the market was so unstable. I think she was really kind of waiting for hopefully it to settle down. And
Kind of like fuel prices.
If the warrant article doesn't mention that this is to enable us for a full evaluation in another year or two, then we should say that on the town floor. Somebody will ask, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We have a motion.
So, okay, so the municipal capital, right now, there's 30,000 in there. They're saying you're gonna put another 60 back in. That gets us to 90. Why are we raising 60? If we get 90, why are we raising 60 to get to 120? Shouldn't we raise 30?
I think where he came up with the 120 was just the 60
The
from last
60 and
year
the
with the
60.
60 this year.
Right,
Because-
but he
Yes,
said
I
the
agree.
account balance of 120. The account balance will be 150 if we put 60 more into it.
Correct.
So what do we want? Do we want the account balance to be 120? Do we want the account balance to be 150?
Again,
So the market reval you said is being estimated at 150 to 200,000, right? Is what we're thinking it's going to cost us
That's
in
what Dawn was
2025.
thinking, yes.
So to Rod's point, if we find that $60,000 and get it back in there, then
not if, when.
I know.
Then that fund will be a balance of
Then
90,000.
we have $102,368 that we have to raise before 2025 to get to do the high end, the 200,000. So technically, we only need to do 50,000 this year and 50,000 next year, and we'll be fine. We don't need to do
It looks like a
60.
piece of paper again. I've got my
Each
papers
year.
all mixed up.
Basically, that 60 is really still there.
There's a line
Right.
item.
It's somewhere, it's just on
Right.
paper, it's not, right?
Well, and that's what they were
Someone that
saying
has,
is we did 60 last
stuff on the
year.
bottom.
We do 60 this year, 60 next year, that gives us 180. But we had 97
97 includes that 60 that was.
from last
Missing,
year.
yeah.
We have,
So-
well, we
but-
have 90. The copier was 7.
But if you do that, and it may be a good idea, but don't you need something, you also need a balance to cover the roof collapsing or something else. So and I agree, we should set aside that 60, find it, put it back, increase 60, if that's what we agree to do, add another 60 down the road, but you still need a municipal capital balance for other issues that may come up.
Yeah, you don't want to drain that down to zero.
Yeah, that's
By doing
what I,
that, right.
much better said. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Well, okay, so it's verbiage. I'm reading off in this saying the account balance,
Right.
and the account balance isn't jiving, so that account needs money more than just for this assessment. It
Where is
needs the
this budget
funds
line?
for,
It,
It was, I'd
It's
have,
under capital
it's under capital
improvements.
budget of Kevin's spreadsheet, the 2023 budget impact. This is what's interesting is it's in line. Where was that? 60,000. It's in line 44, assessing market reevaluation reserve. But then in line 52, it says market reevaluation project negative 60,000.
That's probably that.
So I don't
60 right there.
understand.
Well, they did that though for everything that we look, see breathing apparatus, plow
Yeah.
truck cap.
So
That was
that's-
last year's stuff.
So it,
So they zeroed it out from last year's stuff.
oh, last year's budget. Okay,
See where-
versus last year's budget. Yep, I'm
Okay.
catching on now. All right.
So I forgot about this tab, and so I have to sort of correct myself. They are asking us to vote on transferring quantity amounts in this tab, I guess, in the. yeah,
Well, for the capital ones.
Capital ones.
Yeah, and so there is a transfer request in there.
For this.
This
one.
says,
The 60.
yeah, but.
They blacked
this is
it
saying
out.
Raise.
It's under funding articles, there's a transfer request of $200,000. I asked if we were being asked to
Wait,
vote on
what
it.
line is
They did
that?
say 200,000.
$200,000
Remember
is
that.
coming up when we
29.
talk about undesignated funds.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
No, I know, I do think it's there. so
You
I'm
must be on a different spreadsheet.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
All right, what are we doing?
Right now, I don't know if I've gotten a motion yet, that the select board has recommended that the town appropriates and transfers, no, that they raise and appropriate $60,000 for future assessing market revaluation reserves.
I'll make that motion if Neil let me borrow the verbiage. I make the motion to do what Milt just read.
You can say so moved.
Second.
I second it.
There we go.
Thank you, Rod.
No. Oh, yeah.
It's been
To see
moved
what the-
by John, I'll go ahead and read it, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Motion by John, seconded by Rod, that the town raises and appropriates $60,000 for future assessing / market revaluation reserves.
Any discussion?
Beat it to death.
No discussion.
All right, so we put it to a vote. It's been moved and seconded that the town raises and appropriates $60,000 for future assessing / market revaluation reserves. All those in favor? Yeah, looks like anyone opposed? All right, so it's a vote. 7-1. Now we have the select board has recommended that the town raise and appropriate $100,000 for public works reserves.
I have a follow-up on Neil's discussion from earlier. Is it possible, we have 1.9, 2 million minus whatever 200,000, whatever we come up with. We're gonna end up the day with like $1.6 million, give or take, in general reserve at least. Is it possible to transfer that out of the general fund over to 100,000 of that to Public Works Reserve Fund rather than tax it?
What we need to be careful about is that we don't go below a certain threshold. We're now at a point that I believe we don't need to borrow for that TIP or that loan that we have to take out to
Tan.
the TAM to get through those few months.
Well, I don't know. We have to do that cash flow as you get going. It's gonna be close because Calvin's truck is coming in and it's probably gonna come in before we get to June, and that's gonna pull about 250,000 right out.
But out of his, I guess my question is, that follow-up question, and I don't know the rules, but is that TAN loan based upon general fund and Public Works Reserve Fund? So is it just total reserve funds?
The TAN is based on how much money we have in the bank to pay for the operating of the town, to pay for everything. the
cash.
school,
So it wouldn't matter.
It's cash, right? So we have just a little under 4 million right now. And so we're about 800,000 a month. So if you do the math, it's gonna be tight.
No, I got that. But the question is if 1.5 million, just to pick up a number, is in general, and you, 1.6 now, plus whatever is in Calvin's now, and fire chiefs and everybody else, is that's gonna come up to a number. So all I'm asking is, can we take, instead of having 105 in general, 1.5 in general, we now have an extra 100 in Calvin's. You still have a total, the total in reserves hasn't changed. You see what I'm saying? So if,
Fancy footwork there.
Yeah.
well, but you're not raising the
I've been here
tax.
all night.
I know.
It's hard for me. I'm toast, but
Mhm.
if
Well-
it's still,
Is the TANF based just on undesignated funds, or is it based on what Androscoggin Bank says we have?
right, it's whatever we have in the bank. If we can't really go below like 168,000 in the bank. We go below that. Well, we can't even really go below 800,000 in a month because that's what we have going out. So it's all
So
just
it's
based
not what's
on,
in the bank then, it's what's in the book, what's on the paper,
it's the cash in the bank.
is
The
what the
paper
TANF
eye.
goes off of?
The what, right, so so
Because
if
when
we're-
you, sorry to interrupt, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
So
then
if we don't have the money in the bank to pay our expenses, we have to
Right.
get a TAN.
Correct. But the TAN, what you had said at the select board meeting was undesignated funds. The government says we have to have at least 16 to 17% of budget or 2 months of expenditures.
Right,
And 2 months of expenditures was roughly 1.5 million.
yeah,
17% was 1.36 million.
that's in undesignated funds, right?
So it has to be undesignated funds.
Only
Then if it's-
undesignated funds?
Yeah, if it's sitting over in reserve, then it doesn't count.
Because you can't spend it
Right.
on anything. but-
We can't spend undesignated without a vote by the town, right, or somebody,
But you can't, if it's once it's in the capital fund, it can't be spent on anything but that capital.
unless the town,
Unless
town
town
votes
changes
to, let's just say
Yeah,
be
okay.
1.6.
There's a vote, 6-1, half dozen another. I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So, but, and what the select board was saying is let's not get too close to that 1.5 million because the select board didn't say this. This is Jill's words. The books are so screwed up right now. We're not really sure what's what. So we don't want to get too close to that and then find out that the books weren't accurate.
So it's, let's just sort of rephrase, the books just haven't been reconciled in a long time, so it's hard to know exactly where we stand. It's-
Right.
You know, because when you say they're so screwed up, it sounds,
Okay.
it sounds.
books
it's really
aren't-
dropped.
The books aren't balanced
Yeah,
yet.
Right, there it hasn't been reconciled.
I withdraw my question. We can move on. So.
So I have a comment on it, observation, is that the law doesn't require us to have that fund. That's just a recommendation from the accountants.
The
There's
government.
no legal requirement to have that.
I might have mistyped.
Right,
when
they
I was
just-
taking notes. It might have
So
been-
I don't want to give him $100,000. What is his his balance is
Tell us how you really feel.
218? Is that what his balance is now?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
218 after the truck gets paid for, but I think the truck costs more than what this number is that's here.
it is, but last year you raised a certain amount too to help pay for it.
Uh-huh.
But there are surcharges that are gonna be on that truck because that's the way the market is. So we have to, when the final bill
About
comes in,
200.
yeah, well,
So I would say we give him 50 grand. And to John's point, we got a big undesignated fund. If he needs capital money for something, we can move from the undesignated fund to his fund. So
Works for me.
I'd say let's raise 50 grand. That's what my recommendation. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we vote to raise and appropriate for Public Works reserves $50,000.
Second.
So this is when the.
So it's
5-year
been moved by Neil and
Makes
seconded
sense.
by John that the town raises and appropriates $50,000 for the public works
Can I?
reserve account. Discussion?
I just wanted to ask Neil a question. So if we were sticking to the like capital improvement plan, if you're looking out further than just this year, would your like thought process to be able to pay for things going forward on the capital improvement plan, you know, if putting in 100, they're doing this to be able to stick to that plan, you would want to supplement that with undesignated versus raising.
If we had to.
Yep, okay. I
Or
just wanted,
maybe we bond it, we bond all kinds of things around the town,
yeah,
right?
I just wanted to make sure that it would, like, you still want to stick to the capital improvement plan, you just want to fund it in a different way.
Well, it was gonna come out of taxes one way or the other, but.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tax exempt leasing, we should be looking at that.
Saying it for years.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, it has been moved and seconded that the town raises and appropriates $50,000 for the public works. All those in favor? John?
I'm in favor.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, everyone was in favor?
Mhm.
And I'm against. So it's a vote, 7-1. Okay. So speaking of undesignated, it is the select board's recommendation to appropriate $200,000 from the undesignated fund balance to be used towards the 2023 budget appropriation, thereby decreasing the amount to be raised from property taxes. And just
So,
to let you
yeah.
know, they're
Hold on, he needs to change that number.
Right, so they did that before they heard Calvin's 16,000 and what we're now allocating for solid waste. So the solid waste number was 250. And Calvin's gas was 1,600 less, so we need to add their recommendation is now not the 200. Whatever that money for the 16 and whatever was above the 250 that they had, and I think it's
250, what?
No, 250.
200, I'm sorry, I'm tired.
Me too.
So I think it goes from 200 to 238, 540, but help me with my math. Is what
I
they're
get
recommending.
$25,209 is, because so far the budget committee either said yes to the select board's number or raised a couple of items because of gas expenses and things like that until we got to the public works capital reserve. And that's a difference of $25,209.
There's a difference in the solid waste contract numbers though.
Right,
What's that? So look at,
I don't know what I did with mine.
because you're assuming that they're not gonna change anything other than those two things, correct? You're assuming the select board's only gonna change their 16,000 and their solid waste
yeah,
difference.
exactly.
Right, which is
$20,000 here.
$25,200.
Solid waste, we passed 372.5,
Which is 20,000 more than what?
less, 20,000 less than,
No.
oh.
No, it's,
On the
this budget
old
was
one.
352, so it's,
So we need to add 21.2 to the
So he,
total.
so Jerry is believing that the select board is going to add 21,200 to their undesignated right now that's currently at 200. So he thinks the select board will want to transfer that amount from undesignated to cover the operating budget that has been proposed along with their,
But where did that 25.2 come from?
this is because the solid waste contract costs more money than what
Right.
they had originally. So if you look at this
But ours
number,
is 20,000 off, right here.
yeah,
That's what we voted. That's what his was.
this is what he's thinking the select board's gonna do the year price, which is the 397.
Why would they do that?
It's,
That doesn't make
they
sense.
just, they don't split the number, they just take the number of the contract and they go,
That 397 all happened around 3:00, so they really didn't.
Right,
have
they
it.
haven't processed
They haven't
any
even
of it.
seen it. They got the proposal and everything, but they
in all the
haven't seen
meetings
it.
that I've ever watched, they never do the July to June, they just take the price for that year and go with it like it's the price for the, right? Am I correct? I've never seen you guys split the trash contract.
I don't know what they've done historically, but you know, when you're voting on this, you're voting for a year budget.
Right.
So
Right.
you're not voting for a 6 month
Contract.
budget. You'd have to go back to the town for a special meeting to vote another half of that budget in. So voting, you're either voting for, to me, you're voting for the whole thing for a year, and then we renegotiate the contract, and that comes before the town next year. Or else you're doing something mid-year that is out of process from what we would normally do. That's just my view of it. I'm not sure what they've done in the past,
Right.
but I mean, this goes back to the whole bit about having the budget the way, and the town meeting the way we do it today. It's kind of, it's after we're already
Right,
in the year.
right.
Right, that's
Yeah.
that's a different discussion, but
Right.
that's, but so it puts you in a bind, like in this case, that you may not want to be in.
So, but we're transferring money that we already have.
So just to give you some background, the actual money that we raised last year that went unspent and got returned to undesignated was 137,280. And then the select board chose to bump it up to 200,000. So it was sort of arbitrary. They just felt that the 200,000, based on the amounts available, was a comfortable amount to take out of. But there wasn't really any, there wasn't any discussion on where the additional $60,000 came from. They just
We don't
thought
have
that
the
was
admin.
a comfortable number.
And without editorializing, if we do 225,000, we're limiting it. We're not, that's all money we already have, and we're just moving it.
Right, we're not raising it.
We're not raising it. So that actually helps the tax impact.
The more we move out of undesignated, the less money we have to raise. So that $200,000 could remain, and maybe, we don't know what the select board's gonna discuss, but they could say, no, we're comfortable with $200,000, we're gonna need to raise the additional 21.2. You're thinking they most likely
Yeah.
won't.
Right, because I talked to them, so their recommendation is gonna be not the 200,000, whatever the difference is with Calvin's gas and the price between the 350 that was estimated in that.
The point that I'm making is that they arbitrarily came up with $200,000. It wasn't really a rhyme or reason that we have to, be concerned about. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. I think they look at the tax impact, and that's what they determine goes into the undesignated to help keep the.
The mill rate or.
Well, my
I know right
recollection,
there, it's
I mean, Kevin had some, he was the one that I believe that made the motion for that amount. And obviously he gave it some thought. I'm not just saying he pulled it out of a hat, but there wasn't really a whole lot of discussion, like we discussed, how it broke down. He just felt, he said $200,000 kept us below as a reasonable amount that not undermine the goal that we sort of have set for our designated amount balance.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
who's
think
there. I'll
when
buy
in
her
his-
another box.
In his email, when he explained it, he did make a point that by doing that, he was keeping the tax burden rate, and not raising the mill rate, and that 200,000 helps that.
Might have his note.
Can I say something though?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the things that I haven't heard discussed at all, listening to CIP, select board meetings, and even our meetings, unless you guys discussed it before I got here tonight. We have, it's not 300,000, I think it's 275,000 of ARPA funds that we're using this year to prevent the taxes from going up. What happens next year?
They're not gonna get all these new toys.
Because we're not gonna have the ARPA funds to offset things. If we dip too deep into undesignated, we're not gonna have undesignated to offset things. Is anyone that knows anything
I've thought about it.
beyond me have an idea of how much Because it's great if our taxes are level this year or, 5%, and we got to see how things come out. But if all of a sudden next year we're looking at 10% tax increases, we're going to have a really hard time selling that ticket to the town.
My understanding was the opera funds were being used for costs that were one time.
Correct.
And I know that many public statements were made at public meetings regarding ARPA funds, that the funds be used that way and not put towards items that would cost more,
Right.
But
But if we're also the amount that we're spending this year, if we end up, if the town votes for all the lower amounts, so we're only putting 50,000 into public works, does that affect even our basic operating budget next year when it comes to the levy limit and things like that? I'm not smart enough in the accounting world to know any of those answers.
one of the things
So I'm
they
kind
did-
of curious
they
to
did
know if
figure,
anybody else does.
Julie, correct me, I believe they were well below the levy limit.
By 300,000,
Correct.
AKA ARPA spending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they didn't have those ARPA funds to kick in,
We'd
they
be
would
really
be really
close.
close to the levy limit.
Right, we probably would be making some of the purchases.
Right, which is fine, but again, I'm just kind of curious, and maybe there is no effect to next year, but I feel like I would love to have somebody who knows something
Well,
reassure me.
I did think about that. and-
Okay.
and If you look at Kevin's spreadsheet, which he did a really good job on,
The budget impact?
the budget impact spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Under the tax impact tab, this is where he has that $200,000 from undesignated fund
okay,
being assigned. to,
Yeah.
I guess it's revenue really, but 2022, they used 76,000 from undesignated funds. And that led to so with the $200,000 he's using this year is 12% levy increase. The municipal assessment's going up 12%. If you use the same number that he used last year, it would be 22%. I just picked those numbers because they were there in the spreadsheet.
okay,
So in other words, we're not going to continue to take 200 grand from the undesignated fund. We can only do it for so many years.
right,
So
Well, remember, when the 137 of that, we would have authorized that if we did the old way. We would have seen that those were monies that were raised.
Yes.
Should be
yeah, no,
respected.
I'm not criticizing the method at all. I
Yeah.
think the method's fine, but we can't keep doing it, no matter unless we continue to overtax the people. In my opinion, overtax people. But the thing that offsets it is bond payments are going down. So bond payments are 160 grand less next year, more the year after. So that's going to offset some of that need. But yeah, it's a worry. I mean, we're building in mandates and tax impact now all the time.
Right.
Right.
I don't know whether it's exceeding what the growth is or not. The tax growth is, but taxes are going to grow obviously a little bit. People moving in.
I got ideas.
Yeah. So are we at a place where we can vote on something?
Someone wants to make a motion.
I thought somebody motioned 50. You did.
No.
No, that was
Passed
previous.
This is
Oh.
this is
Yeah.
so I do
Well,
have
we
a quick,
didn't vote on the 50
I
for
have a
public
quick
works.
question, yes, we
How
do.
much
Before
appropriate for
we-
undesignated
Before
fund?
we settle on this number here, it does not include the administration budget increase.
The $3,000.
So is the undesignated fund 2.4? 2.4
Well, that's what
Or it's
Trio
1.9.
says. But the audit report that you all got and I shared with you, it says 1.9, but Trio says 2.4.
I'd go with the lower just to cover your ass.
So this would take it down to,
This is that whole.
So I
don't think
wonder,
I've been
it's-
real
I
reconciled
wonder
yet.
if the difference is the $300,000 ARPA funds, because I didn't see that
No,
anywhere.
no,
Oh,
that-
you did say that went into a different account.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That
it's
actually, when it,
it's
it's kind of
500,000,
funny,
not
when in the revenue, it
300,000.
really should have gone into the GOs, but anyway.
So the auditor says 1.9?
Yeah, that's what she has. And you have it, when I shared the,
It's in that, yeah.
you'll see it in there. And when I look at Trio and see 2.4, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
I don't.
We need to find
pick one, you know?
Right?
So we need to pick a number, 230? Doesn't have to be, you know, we generous, right?
I will make a motion that we transfer $230,000 from whatever it was to
Undesignated.
operating budget or whatever. Please fill in the right words.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Second.
All right, so
It's
John,
your number, you better second it.
Neil. It was moved by John and seconded by Neil that the Board of Select, that the town appropriates, no, that we allow the Board of Selectmen to appropriate the amount of 230,000 from the undesignated fund balance to be used toward the 2023 budget appropriation, thereby decreasing the amount to be raised from property taxes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, to review the motion and second is that the town allows the Board of Selectmen to appropriate $230,000 from undesignated fund balance to be used toward the 2023 budget appropriation, thereby decreasing the amount to be raised from property taxes. All those approved? All those opposed? The vote is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 2.
What would you have done?
I think it's too much.
I'm going to attempt this just to make the wording less. I make a motion to see if the town will vote to appropriate all general and intergovernmental revenues received that are not dedicated or otherwise appropriated for other expenses to reduce the tax in commitment. Parentheses, amounts listed on revenues tab will be listed on the warrant. End of parentheses.
I'll second.
There you go. Discussion?
Didn't we just vote?
No.
This is a new,
This is like your auto excise tax, your
Oh.
building permits, your electrical permits,
Oh, time for bed.
that sort of thing.
Okay, I second.
It's
Too
already
late.
been seconded.
Oh, shoot.
It's discussion now.
If you're dead, I will withdraw my second if you want to be the one. But Bill wrote down my name, so
I'm
it's.
tired.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go to vote.
Are you okay with that?
All in favor?
Okay,
Unanimous.
all right.
Thank you, ma'am.
I make a motion to see if the town will vote to allow the Board of Selectmen to transfer up to, whoop, hitting pause.
$7,880.
That's not my motion.
Don't do
Sorry.
like that.
Sorry.
That was really
I
rude.
apologize. I apologize. $9,380
All right.
from the Recreation Assigned Fund and up to $52,000 from the Telecommunications Assigned Fund to be used towards the 2023 appropriation for the Conservation, Parks and Recreation and Telecommunications budget, thereby decreasing the amount to be raised by property taxes.
Wow, I vote for that.
Second. Do you want to second it?
I second it, yes.
There we go.
So we do every year, right?
Mhm.
Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded that the town votes to allow the Board of Selectmen to transfer up to $9,380 from the Recreation Assigned Fund and up to $52,000 from the Telecommunications Assigned Fund to be used toward the 2023 appropriation for the Conservation, Parks and Recreation and Telecommunication budgets, thereby decreasing the amount to be raised by property taxes. All those in favor? Vote. Now we got 3 more to go.
We already did debt service, right?
Yes.
2 more to go.
Did debt service?
We have 2 overspent articles. The select board recommends
We
that
did it off
the
the
town
sheet.
appropriates 14,000, this is additional monies that we've already voted on, that the town votes to appropriate $14,344.90 from undesignated fund balance to cover solid waste expenditures above the approved 2022 solid waste budget.
So that raises more money out of undesignated.
Didn't we already do that?
That's why you said it's too
No,
much.
you're overspent in 2022.
We have to say that we could pay it on overspend.
So now you're at 230, you're gonna bring it up to 247, and there's another one, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's kind of scary.
we didn't have this, this
You
wasn't
all
in
have
my
the
tab.
information. You have this information.
Where did that come from?
Well, it was handed out.
It's not in your 127.
Oh, actually, yeah, it was in the thing that Kevin sent us.
Yeah.
This can be changed on the town floor. This isn't a done deal.
Yeah.
I'm confused. So that 230, that 16,000, the 25,200, wasn't that to cover like
That's the difference
Going
between
forward.
the old and
Going
the
forward,
new,
you're right.
but we overspent, so we have to
Actually,
approve.
I will make a motion to do what you just said.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, so it was moved by John and seconded by Jill that the town allows, that the town appropriates $14,344.90 from the undesignated fund balance to cover solid waste expenditures above the approved 2022 solid waste budget. All those any further discussion?
So I guess my concern would be, when we're all said and done, how far up are we gonna be on these undesignated funds? Are we gonna be above that percentage that we need to be at?
Well, it's not a need to be, it's a should be. It's a good idea
It
to
can be
be.
whatever we want, but
Yeah, right now, I think I read that we're 19% and it should be is like 15 to 17%. So I think,
How much is in the fund, so.
what's that?
we don't know how this is affecting
1.9,
it.
be 1.7 million.
Just missing a $500,000. We'll find it, right?
That's not even-
Take it off another
that's not
budget
even
line.
funny.
I know, I'm just tired.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, it has been moved and seconded that the town appropriates $14,344.90 from the undesignated fund balance to cover solid waste expenditures above the approved 2022 solid waste budget. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
I don't know.
Is there another one?
Is you a yes or no?
You can't really unoppose
Yes,
this
that's
because
fine.
then we go into whatever the word is that the accountants use. If anything, you have to ask to revisit the
Yeah.
undesignated transfer.
Was to pass, what was the vote?
I'm waiting to
6 to
find out
2.
how you voted.
I guess I'll vote for it.
So that, and you're voting against.
No, I voted for it. I don't
Oh.
want, I mean, I'm gonna vote for this. I just wish that we would have talked about
There's
this.
one
This
more
before we got to the-
overspent article. The select board has recommended that the town votes to appropriate $8,638.71 from undesignated fund balance to cover fire department expenditures above the approved 2022 fire department budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I vote we accept the select board's recommendation.
You move.
I second.
It was moved by Neil and seconded by Jill, that the town appropriates $8,638.71 from the undesignated fund balance to cover fire department expenditures which are above the approved 2022 fire department budget. Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that the town votes to appropriate, that the town approves to appropriate $8,638.71 from the undesignated fund balance to cover fire department expenditures which are above the approved 2022 fire department budget. All those in favor? That's a vote. Let me just make sure I covered all this. It's all filled in.
So last year
It's all
we
filled in.
moved
Okay.
76,000. This year we're gonna move 252.
Or raise taxes. Remember, before we did that, we all voted on those numbers. I mean, if we want to go back and lower the administration, fire department and some other stuff, all we did with it 230 was help people with their taxes.
We don't know what's gonna happen. Anyone can change the numbers they want to in the town meeting.
basically just cover what we spent.
Anybody think of anything else we gotta do?
My pillow is calling. my
So
name.
I had sent out, we're not doing this tonight. I had sent out an email about, having a discussion about ideas and, places where, remember that email that I sent out a long time ago? And we talked about doing it after this. That's obviously not gonna happen. I would really love if at some point we could do that. I know we said that last year too, and it didn't happen, and, I would really love for that to happen. The other thing is that, and I don't know if there's time, but the way that the planning board has the informational hearings about the land use stuff and the conservation commission, I think there's no opportunity, I put your hand in that. I think there's no opportunity for residents that don't understand the budget process or can't sit through 4-hour-long meetings they don't get any chance to have public input in this process or even ask questions to have them get answered. And I'd love for the budget committee to do one of those kind of question and answers about the budget before we get to town meeting. I'm more than happy to be one of the people from the budget committee participating. I don't know how everybody feels about that, so that I could bring it up. So I'm bringing it up.
It's a good idea and a hard idea. And I say it's a hard idea because just like everyone's like, well, the budget committee has say on how much is spent. Well, we really don't. I mean,
I think that a lot of people in town have no idea how this process even
right,
works.
exactly.
People who
And
want to know, no.
yeah, yeah. And that's my concern is that
Well, that's what Milt said. He didn't know how many people would
actually show
come
up.
ask questions.
I don't mind giving it a whirl, experiment and see what happens. I don't think we necessarily need a full quorum for it.
No.
No.
So
Did we,
We do need a motion to adjourn.
did we motion?
I made a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor? No discussion? Thank you, everyone. A reminder, so that select board
Are we
meeting.
done? Are we done?